Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. God Level Choice. Obito, come and inherit the Hokage. Chapter 91. Lin put the book in her hand into Kakashi's arms. He said with slightly complicated eyes. But you can't. Our Obito-kun is so pure, you can't lead him to bad things. Say it. Lin took Obito's hand and pulled him away. Let's go, Obito-kun. Obito and Kakashi looked at each other and signaled with apologetic eyes. Good brother, I'm sorry, I'll leave this pot to you. You don't have a partner anyway, so you don't have to care so much about image. Thank you, brother. Nice to have you. Kakashi looked at the two people leaving, messy in the wind. Obito, pure. Is Obito really related to this word? Are you afraid that I will lead him astray? It was obviously him who led me to the point of no return. At this time, Kakashi wanted to drop the book in his hand to the ground. I don't care if I don't read this crappy book, he said angrily. But after opening it and taking a second look, he couldn't put it down. This book is really good. The other side. Lin pulled Obito and left in a hurry. On the road, she looked at Obito and asked nervously, Obito-kun, didn't you see the content of that book just now? Obito shook his head repeatedly. No. When he was in the Kingdom of Rain, he read this book over and over again several times. I just planned to give the book away, so naturally I didn't read the contents. Lin patted her small chest and breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Lin looked into Obito's eyes and composed her words. Obito-kun, when you interact with Kakashi in the future, please be careful, just don't be influenced by him. Lin didn't know how to express it, so she stamped her feet impatiently. Oh, do you know what I'm talking about? Obito nodded repeatedly. I understand everything. Lin nodded her head with satisfaction, pulled Obito's collar, stood on tiptoes and said. Obito-kun, you are so good, this is your reward. Obito chuckled, feeling pleased with himself. I can enjoy this fragrance today thanks to Kakashi. No, I will give him 2 more books when I get back and thank him properly. Otherwise, I would really feel sorry for myself. Night. After having dinner with Lin, Obito sent Lin back home. Then he came to the woods alone. Sitting on a big tree, he closed his eyes and fell into deep thought. Do you want to attack Danzo now? With his current strength, dealing with Danzo shouldn't be a big problem. But after the assassination of Danzo, what consequences will it cause, and how should we deal with the subsequent aftermath? This is something he can't be sure about now, and he hasn't thought about it in detail yet. It's better to wait a little longer, we still need an opportunity. Obito opened his eyes. There was a faint light in his eyes. Soon, that day won't be too far away. The border between the land of fire and the land of grass. In the magnificent underground palace. There was one more person in the empty palace today. This is a girl of 13 or 14 years old. Half of her body was covered in white, and her long black hair was messy and scattered on her shoulders. The girl has exquisite facial features and a beautiful face. It's just the aura of destruction on his body that makes people feel cold. Uchiha Setsuna. In her former smart eyes. Now it was full of deathly silence, and there were even blood and tears flowing from his eyes. Uchiha looked indifferently at the white-haired old man sitting in front of him. Uchiha Madara, tell me how to create the world of dreams. What a rude junior. Uchiha shook his head and waved to Setsuna. There is no need for you to thank me. Come over here. From today on, you are the savior. Uchiha instantly walked slowly towards Madara with bare feet. Uchiha Madara raised her cheeks and shook away her bangs from her eyes. Look into my eyes. The moment their eyes met, Uchiha was instantly pulled into the illusion space created by Madara. In the illusion space, Madara starts with Sage of 6 Paths and 10 Tails. Informed Setsuna about Project Tsuki no Mi. Uchiha frowned slightly for a moment. Collect the tailed beast scattered everywhere and summon the legendary 10 Tails. Uchiha Madara nodded and said, yes, you have Hashirama's cells in your body. You should be able to control the golem even if you don't activate the Rinnegan. Uchiha hummed in an instant and nodded slightly. I understand, but what about that Nagato you just mentioned? Uchiha Madara said with eyes closed. Nagato is a descendant of Senju, Note 1, and is the only person besides me who can summon Geto statue. I originally intended to cultivate him and become the savior who changes the world, but unfortunately he doesn't seem to have this intention. If you have a chance in the future, take my eyes back from him. You are the real savior of this world. Uchiha Setsuna said coldly. I will, even if it's just for him. Setsuna thought silently in his heart. A few days after this, Uchiha Madara retained everything she had learned throughout her life and passed it all on to Setsuna. Forbidden Technique by Uchiha, Six Paths Technique, and Yin-Yang Escape Technique. So, Setsuna. Uchiha Madara raised her hand. Black Zetsu turned into a pool of liquid and flowed onto his arm. Poison, Venom Madara. Madara placed her hand on a white Zetsu. The next second, a half-black and half-white thing was born. I put my will into it, and you can think of half of it as me. Black Zetsu showed an honest smile. Yes, I am the embodiment of Madara-sama's will. Uchiha Madara took a few steps forward. He used force to break the tube between himself and the Gedo statue. The Gedo statue transmission has lost its vitality. Madara fell weakly on the stone chair and said tremblingly. Okay, go ahead, I'll leave everything to you. In the time before my resurrection, you were Uchiha Madara. Say it. Madara took her last breath, her whole body no longer alive. A hero who once stirred up the turmoil in the ninja world and intimidated an entire country by one person. It just died in such a careless way, in the corner of the corner that no one cared about. Of course, Madara firmly believes that there is still time for her to return. The day I return to the world, everyone, cough cough cough. It's too far off topic, but I still owe someone a dance. Uchiha looked at the dead Madara for a moment. The eyes were flashing, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Zetsu, who was half black and half white, walked up to Setsuna. He gave a big smile. Setsuna-ko, no, Madara-sama, what should we do next? White Zetsu on Uchiha Setsuna. A mask swirled in front of her face, covering her alluring face. Do what Madara should do, she said coldly. After having his face covered by Uzumaki White Zetsu, Uchiha seemed to have changed his CV in an instant, even his voice changed. Didn't Nagato capture Rain Shinobi Village? Then let's capture another shinobi village as well. The voice she spoke at this time was the same as Madara's. Said. Uchiha seemed to think of something for a moment. His whole body began to radiate chills from the inside out. Under severe emotional fluctuations, there were even mysterious black patterns slowly flowing in her eyes. Just Kurigakure, she said coldly. When Black Zetsu heard this, his heart moved slightly. My childhood sweetheart died at the hands of Kurigakure, so I chose Kurigakure. Women are really vengeful creatures. With a few words of slander in his mind, Black Zetsu smiled. I understand, Madara. I will collect detailed information about Kurigakure for you as soon as possible. Konoha. In the training ground in the village. Two figures were on the field, fighting inextricably. Obito watched with excitement from the sidelines and shouted at the top of his lungs. Asuma, don't fight Guy, try to cut him in the middle. Asuma in the field was speechless. You put it lightly. Guy's steps are so flexible, there's no flaws at all. Obito saw that Asuma was useless. He immediately turned around and started cheering Guy on. Guy-san, just start a power concerto, and then leave strong whirlwind will come up. Guy heard this and came up with a set of combos. He really knocked down Asuma on the opposite side. The battle ends here. Guy stretched out his hand and pulled Asuma up from the ground, looking exhausted. I agree, Asuma-san. Asuma smiled bitterly and took Guy's hand, stood up and said. Your physical skills are getting more and more terrifying. The two walked toward the outside. Guy nodded slightly towards Obito. Thank you for your advice just now, Obito-kun. Obito said with a playful smile. It's okay, you should be grateful for this. Guy's thick eyebrows moved and he said eagerly. Speaking of which, Obito-kun, we haven't had that for a long time, how about we? Obito thought for a while and nodded. He took off his coat and handed it to Lin beside him. Yoshi, then I will give you a good time today. Guy pumped his fist excitedly. Great, youth is for catharsis. He eagerly pulled Obito and rushed into the training ground in a hurry. Asuma shook his head. He raised his hand to light a cigarette and went to the side to smoke. A cigarette afterwards is better than a living god. Lin and Hong sat outside the venue, eating snacks and chatting. Lin, how are you and Obito doing lately? Lin put down the glutinous rice cake in her hand, wiped the corners of her mouth and said. It's okay, it's almost the same as before. But. Lin glanced at Obito on the field and whispered into Kurenai's ear. But I noticed that Obito-kun doesn't seem to be normal lately. Hong was shocked after hearing what Lin said. Did Obito cheat on me? Hong's first reaction was that it was impossible. That's not what Obito is. Besides, who would like him except you? Kurenai joked with a smile. Lin also covered her mouth and snickered. I said it was abnormal. That's not what I meant. It was Obito-kun. I remembered the scene I saw a few days ago. Lin's face looked slightly strange. It's Obito-kun, he seems to think he is a tree. I saw him 2 days ago, burying his legs in the soil and standing in the woods basking in the sun. Red Brain made up for the scene described by Lin. One couldn't help but laughed again. PFF'd, I don't know why, but it sounds like something Obito-kun would do. Asuma was smoking on the side. Come back by chance. I happened to see Hong with a smile as bright as a flower. His heart trembled for no reason. The cigarette in his hand burned to the end without even realizing it. Half an hour later, Kakashi also came to the training ground. He snorted coldly. Without saying a word, he took Obito's place. Obito scratched his head in embarrassment. It seems that this arrogant monster is still holding a grudge. Let's buy 2 books for Kakashi when we have time, Obito thought. Then Lin and I will leave first, Mina-san. Obito held Lin's little hand and left the training ground. After the two had lunch together, Obito sends Lin home. Wandering alone on the street. Oh, I'm so stupid, really. He sighed. When I made my choice, I totally forgot about the cloudy day. The last time he made a choice, I chose the task of imagining myself as a tree and sunbathing for half an hour every day. But it happened to be rainy in Konoha in the past period, and he could hardly make any progress now. I'm taking an arrogant little step, and if I have something to do, I'll just wander around. Obito hummed a little tune and walked around the corner of the street. That's. He saw a familiar figure and shouted in surprise. Shisui. Shisui in front turned around with the same expression of joy. Brother Obito. Shisui walked quickly towards Obito. Only then did Obito realize. Behind him, Odudu, was a 4 or 5-year-old child. The little boy has short black hair. The facial features are very delicate, and she is also wearing clothes with a round fan. Obviously, this is a cub of the Uchiha clan. Uchiha is a big-eyed boy who is 4 or 5 years old and has a good relationship with Shisui. Combine this information. The identity of the little boy in front of him has already been revealed. Shisui pointed at the little boy next to him and said with a smile. Obito-san, let me introduce you, this is Uchiha Itachi. He is the son of the Fugaku clan leader and also my best friend. Obito secretly said that it was true. The little guy in front of me is the mysterious genocide man, Uchiha Itachi. Shisui said to Itachi next to him again. 1 against 7, this is my cousin, Uchiha Obito. Obito smiled kindly at the little guy. Hello, 1 against 7. Itachi bowed slightly politely. Hello, Obito-senpai. The two of them had actually met before, but they had never crossed paths. Now, thanks to Shisui's introduction, we have officially met. Obito pointed to the street behind him and said. I'll treat everyone to 3 color dumplings. Let's go to the store and chat while eating. Shisui nodded when he heard this and looked at Itachi beside him. I have no objection. What about you, 1 against 7? Itachi swallowed secretly and nodded pretending to be indifferent. I don't have any objection either. Actually, Itachi likes sweets very much, but rarely has the opportunity to eat them. He was always a little shy about speaking up. Now that Obito took the initiative, he naturally had no objection. In a dessert shop, Itachi took a bite of the 3-color dumpling in his hand. The whole person is intoxicated by the soft and waxy taste. Sweet yet creamy caramel sauce. Fragrant glutinous rice, and finely chopped nuts inside. Obito almost laughed out loud when he saw this scene. Although Itachi tried his best to hide it, Obito could see the pleasure in his eyes. Although the current Itachi god has seen blood, but he is still a child at heart. While Obito was observing Itachi, Itachi was also observing him. Shisui mentioned Obito in front of Itachi more than once. Said he admired Obito very much. He regards Obito as his guiding light, a role model that he wants to strive to emulate. Then, Itachi remembered the name Obito firmly. In his eyes, Shisui is his guide. That's why I can get such high praise from Shisui-senpai, my cousin. It will definitely be more unusual. But after watching it for a while, Itachi found this with some disappointment. The guy named Obito in front of me looks ordinary no matter how you look at it. 1 against 7. 1 against 7. Itachi didn't come back to his senses until he heard Shisui's voice. He smiled apologetically. Sorry, seniors, I was thinking about something just now. Shisui patted his shoulder and said with a smile. It's okay, you don't have to be so reserved in front of me and Obito-san. My cousin just asked you if you want another dumpling. Itachi glanced at the table in front of him. Only then did I realize that I was just thinking about the problem. Subconsciously, I ate all the dumplings on the table. He couldn't help but blush. No, thank you Obito-senpai. The three of them started chatting. Certainly. Most of the time it was Shisui and Obito talking again. Itachi listened quietly. He found that there was indeed something unusual about Obito-senpai. For example, his brain circuit is different from ordinary people, and ordinary people really can't figure out his thinking. After a while, Itachi found an excuse, stood up and said, quote, Then Itachi will take his leave now and won't disturb the two seniors. He could tell, Obito and Shisui had some words that were not convenient to discuss in front of him. Obito looked at Itachi and suggested with a smile. Pack a dumpling to take away and eat on the way back. Itachi hesitated for a moment and shook his head. No need, Obito-senpai. Obito said with a smile. Take one with you. It's rare for senior to treat you today, so feel free to eat. Shisui nodded in agreement. Take one and go, 7 to a dozen. You don't know how hard it is to get brother Obito to treat you. Itachi cheered internally. On the surface, he nodded calmly. Well, thank you Obito-senpai for the hospitality. After Itachi left, Shisui poked his cousin and said curiously. Cousin, it seems that you like Itachi very much, and you would even take the initiative to treat me. Obito rolled his eyes angrily. Go and go, I've learned to ridicule my cousin. But Itachi is really a good kid. At first glance, he looks like a filial and sensible kid. A few minutes later, Obito and Shisui also left the dessert shop. The two walked side by side on the street. Unknowingly, we came to a secluded and deserted place. Shisui looked at his cousin beside him and asked softly. Obito-san, do you know Mangekyo Sharingan? Obito's body couldn't help but tremble, and he looked at Shisui with complicated eyes. Could it be that Odudu? Obito held Shisui in his arms and whispered in his ear. I'm sorry, Shisui. Shisui let out a long sigh. Sure enough, cousin, you also. The sun quietly sets in the sky, and the night curls up and hugs the earth. In the dark and silent woods, there was only Shisui's soft voice. Quote, I can only watch helplessly as he is swallowed up by ninjutsu. Obito smiled sadly. Involuntarily, the figure of a certain guy appeared in his mind. Oh, this is war. After a moment of silence, Obito asked. Oh Dudu, what is your awakened pupil technique? A black four-sided dart pattern appeared in Shisui's eyes. I can distort reality to a certain extent as I wish, which I call distinguished heavenly gods. At that time, I had a feeling that if I had enough power, I could even rewrite the death of my friends. Obito was shocked when he heard this. Shisui's distinguished heavenly gods, isn't it an illusion that tampers with other people's will? Why did it become a pupil technique that can modify reality? In the myth of another world, distinguished heavenly gods corresponds to the god who created the heavens and the earth, and is the most special existence among the gods. If you really talk about it this way, it does have the ability to change reality. Obito had a vague realization in his heart. Is it because Shisui firmly believes in his heart that the two brothers can change everything? Because Shisui's state of mind has changed, so has his ability to awaken. That should be it. Shisui looked at his silent cousin and asked. Cousin, you must have activated the Mangekyo Sharingan, right? What is the pupil technique you awakened? Obito chuckled twice. In Shisui's expectant eyes, she slowly uttered two words. Keep it secret, Shisui. He was unhappy on the spot. Brother Obito, this isn't fair. Obito spread his hands and said. This is what my cousin wants to tell you. There is no fairness in this world. Why don't we have a test? If we win, you can ask me again. Shisui stood up immediately and said. Okay, it's a deal, and my cousin won't go back on it. Obito said confidently. I, Obito, always keep my word. Anyway, even if I lose, it's just a matter of rejecting it again. What's there to regret? Under the moonlight, the two figures struggled together, like brothers and sisters. The land of water. Outside Kurigakure, Uchiha glanced at Zetsu beside him for a moment. Are you sure the information you provided is correct? Black Zetsu showed an honest smile. Yes, Madara-sama, I guarantee that Kurigakure's latest defense situation is exactly the same as the information I told you. With the pupil technique you just awakened, you can easily take down Kurigakure without any bloodshed. Uchiha snorted instantly. If what you say is true, that's natural. If the intelligence is wrong, there will be no need for you to continue to exist. Say it. She walked towards Kurigakure quietly with her bare feet. Setsuna looked at Uchiha walking towards Kurigakure. Black Zetsu gave a playful smile. Haha, I hope your ability can be as powerful as your tone. He sighed quietly and wiped the non-existent tears from the corners of his eyes. My frail mother has been alone and trapped for nearly 1,000 years. Ah ha ha ha. Black Zetsu's grief-stricken cries made the white Zetsu next to him happy. Master Black Zetsu, you cry in a very unique way. Shut up. Oh, outside Kurigakure, two ninjas guarding the gate. At the same time, he narrowed his eyes and tightened his grip on the weapon in his hand. In their field of vision, a guy who looked like a white-faced steamed bun turned into spirit was slowly walking towards them. A fog ninja asked cautiously. Who are you? Uchiha glanced at the two mist ninja briefly. The two mist ninjas looked startled, with a trace of struggle on their faces. The next second, their expressions returned to calm. He opened the door expressionlessly and let Uchiha walk in instantly. The defense on the east side is relatively weak, so we should be able to control the opponent instantly. Uchiha pondered for a moment and walked towards the east. The pattern of her Mangekyo Sharingan. It is an almost round four-pointed star. In the pure black night, it looks particularly eerie. Along the way, she met 3 teams of patrolling mist ninjas. But she didn't need to take action at all. Just looking at each other can solve all problems. Setsuna raised his left hand. Looking at the white limbs, he hummed and said. The so-called Hashirama cells are indeed magical. I used the pupil technique so intensely that my eyes were only slightly sore. She looked up at the tall building in front of her. It was also the target of her trip, the Mizukage building. After quietly entering Mizukage's office, Setsuna saw a long-haired man. He was sitting at the table, handling official duties meticulously. It's really a qualified film, but it's a pity. As if he thought of something, a coldness flashed in Momo's eyes. Third Mizukage lowered his head and said while reviewing the documents. You are so brave, you dare to go deep into my Kurigakure alone. But since you're here, let's stay. 1 minute later. Setsuna sat on the chair and rubbed his sore eyes. Behind her, Third Mizukage was rubbing her shoulders. As expected of Mizukage, the amount of eye power I expended in controlling you is far more than what I used to control the dozen or so people. Third Mizukage smiled and said. Thank you for your compliment, but even so, haven't I still been conquered by you? Setsuna snorted slightly proudly. That's natural. The third Mizukage's hand reached forward, preparing to move the joints for Setsuna. However, he was slapped away by Momo. The third Mizukage looked slightly stunned. Grown-ups, Setsuna's face was a little red under the mask. Just now, this guy's hand almost touched his own. Okay, let's stop here. Uchiha turned around instantly. Looking at third Mizukage indifferently, a red light flashed in his eyes. She invaded Mizukage's consciousness effortlessly. In the other person's mind, he looked through his memories wantonly. Third Mizukage had no intention of resisting at all. Let the other party act in his own consciousness. After a while, Uchiha opened his eyes in an instant, with a hint of doubt in his eyes. How come? Uchiha was about to speak for a moment. I want the third Mizukage and Kurigakure's Anbu squad leader to gather here. There are some important things that she needs to check before she can confirm them. But when she touched the mask on her face, he frowned slightly and gave up the idea. She asked, looking at the third Mizukage beside her. Who is the younger generation in your village that you most recognize? Or who do you plan to replace you in the future? Third Mizukage said with a smile without thinking. That must be Yagura. He is a very good junior. Yagura is not only kind-hearted, but also extremely talented. Everyone likes him. Uchiha nodded thoughtfully for a moment. Yagura, go and send someone to call him over. Third Mizukage asked hesitantly. Now, my lord. Uchiha Setsuna said in a tone that left no room for doubt. Right now, Third Mizukage said helplessly. Okay. Someone come. Soon 2 Anbu ninjas heard the sound and walked into Mizukage's office. In an instant, he sat down at the table with great irritation. He even crossed his long legs on Mizukage's desk. After the 2 Anbu entered, they turned a blind eye to it. As if this is a matter of course. Mizukage-sama, sir, what are your orders? Third Mizukage said, go and call Yagura and tell him that I have something to ask him about. Yes. After taking the order, the 2 Anbu walked towards the outside of the house. It's easier than expected, Setsuna thought to himself. The reason she was able to take down Kurigakure so easily was because of her Mangekyo Sharingan ability. A terrifying and treacherous pupil technique, Panjin-zun. Just look at each other. She can plant a seed of desire in the other person's heart. This seed will take root in desire. Turn into a flower of desire, instantly corrupting the opponent's will. On the premise of retaining the other party's sense of autonomy, let the other party submit to you unconditionally. As long as the other party is not mentally stronger than yourself, or has no desires, few desires, and a pure heart. Her pupil technique is almost 100% effective. And with Uchiha Setsuna's current eye power, he can maintain 30 flowers of desire at the same time. Once this limit is exceeded, when she wants to inject the seed of desire into a new target, you must first break up a flower of desire, that is, take the initiative to release your control over someone. I hope that Tangerine Yagura is worthy of one of my thoughts. Setsuna murmured. 10 minutes later, there was a knock on the door outside Mizukage's office. Third Mizukage said loudly, come in. A young man with green hair and purple eyes walked in. Asked with some confusion, Mizukage-sama, are you looking for me? This person is Yagura. Setsuna looked at the young man in front of him. Yagura has a baby face and a scar under his left eye. If I hadn't just been at Third Mizukage, I would have learned some information about Yagura. Setsuna could not imagine the young man in front of him who looked about the same age as himself. Children can even throw shurikens. When Yagura saw Setsuna, he was also shocked. Who is this white-faced steamed bun? Why is he sitting in the main seat while Mr. Mizukage is standing beside him? Third Mizukage did not speak, but looked at Yagura faintly. The hair on Yagura's body stood up, and he instinctively felt that something was wrong. He began to retreat slowly, preparing to leave Mizukage's office first. But in the next second, the guy who looked like a steamed bun turned into spirit suddenly had a red light in his eyes. Yagura felt like he was enveloped in a sea of blood. The whole person slowly sank to the bottom of the sea, and his consciousness gradually became blurred. 1 minute later, Yagura's eyes became clear again. He looked at his appearance at this time and touched his body from time to time. Well, now I'm both Yagura and Setsuna. It's a really weird feeling. Uchiha looked at Yagura who was undergoing self-recognition in front of him. Or another, self. He was about to say something, but he almost fell to the ground. Her head was dizzy now. Tiredness keeps coming like a tide. Uchiha whispered for a moment. The consumption of separating a thought is far more than I imagined. Implanting thoughts in other people's consciousness is another application of the instant eye technique. She can divide parts of her consciousness. Use 10 seeds of desire as a carrier to create your own thought. Now, the Yagura implanted with her mind is equivalent to her incarnation. Although Yagura still has the memory of the past, but his personality and consciousness have been covered by Momo. 10 seeds of desire are permanently lost. I hope you won't let me down, Yagura. Just when Setsuna was talking to himself, A gleam suddenly flashed in the eyes of the third Mizukage behind her. A kunai emerged from third Mizukage's sleeve. He stabbed the defenseless Setsuna hard. Not good. When Setsuna noticed the strong wind behind him, it was already too late to avoid it. At the critical moment, Yagura threw a kunai, blocking the third Mizukage for a moment. Setsuna quickly looked behind Mizukage, tightening her control over him. Third Mizukage's eyes became blank. Subsequently, he regained his composure again. He walked out of Mizukage's office with a smile. To stop the mist shinobi Anbu who might come after hearing the sound. Phew, it's so dangerous. Setsuna patted his chest, looking a little scared. Yagura pouted a little femininely and said speechlessly. What are you afraid of? With Hashirama's cells in your body, he can't kill you. Setsuna said with red eyes. I can't die, but the pain will be unbearable. Yagura said, oh, and nodded. That's true. The reason why third Mizukage lost control just now. It was caused by the fact that the main body fell into weakness after a thought was separated in an instant. The flower of desire is not an unsolvable existence. If you don't get enough chakra, or you have strong desire nourishment, the flower of desire will gradually wither. Just like just now. During Setsuna's brief period of weakness, Mizukage seized the opportunity. He suppressed the desire in his heart and successfully got rid of Setsuna's control over him. If Yagura hadn't taken action in time, Mizukage might have succeeded. This is why Uchiha Setsuna. Even if 10 seeds of desire are lost, one person must be chosen to enter the mind. The control the flower of desire has over people is reversible and unstable. When you are in a bad state, snap. When the opponent meets the Grandmaster's illusionist, bang. Or when the other person suddenly realizes something, bang. But implanting thoughts is different. The other party is equivalent to being completely assimilated by himself, and this process is completely irreversible. Think of this. Setsuna looked at Yagura aside. And Yagura happened to look at her. The two of them stared at each other, one looking at me and the other looking at you. This feeling of being connected is really weird. Setsuna shook his head. Yagura said, huh, the feeling of changing from a girl to a man is even more novel. How about you experience it? He opened his small mouth in an instant, but was speechless. After a while, Setsuna said, you should go back first, so that no one will become suspicious. I will recruit you again tomorrow. Good. Yagura nodded and left Mizukage's office. Setsuna held her cheek, swayed her slender legs, and began to think about her next plan. I definitely can't stay here forever. After dealing with the traces of the intrusion, I can leave the rest to Yagura. After thinking about it for a while, Setsuna knocked on the table. The third Mizukage at the door walked in with a smile. My lord, what are your orders? Setsuna said coldly. The team patrolling east of Kurigakure today, as well as the fog ninjas in the Mizukage building, try to find a way to make them disappear reasonably. After all this is done, pass the position of Mizukage to Yagura, and then kill yourself. The third Mizukage still smiled and nodded. I understand, sir, please give me a month. 1 month, Setsuna snorted. Well, let's give it a month. Come over and rub my shoulders. Okay, my lord. While enjoying Mizukage's massage, Setsuna was thinking about something else. 1 month should be enough time to verify that guess. If I find out, it's you who are causing trouble behind my back. Setsuna looked at his white left arm, a trace of disgust flashing in his eyes. Then I will definitely make you pay the price. Early 48th year of Konoha. Sarutobi Hiruzen took all the responsibility for the Fire Nation's war-torn war upon himself. He took the initiative to approach the daimyo and asked to resign as Hokage. After the classic 3 rejections and 3 words, the daimyo saw that Hiruzen was sincere in his resignation and finally approved his request. If you want to ask who is the happiest person when Hiruzen abdicates, that would have to be his old friend, Danzo. Danzo has been thinking a lot these days. If Hiruzen is willing to elect me to the position, if. However, Danzo was not happy for a few days yet. Hiruzen, right in front of the daimyo, recommended his disciple Namikaze Minato to be the new generation of Hokage. Danzo was immediately unhappy. He expressed his stance in front of the daimyo. Let Namikaze Minato be the Hokage, why not let Orochimaru take over? But obviously, no one, not Sarutobi Hiruzen, nor the daimyo nor the council, cared about his opinion. The choice of fourth Hokage was just decided. Danzo waved his sleeves and left the table angrily, and broke up with Hiruzen on bad terms. But Hiruzen doesn't care. Hokage office. Hiruzen looked at Minato, who was half kneeling in front of him, with a smile. Minato, I always thought you were the successor to the Will of Fire. So I plan to entrust you with the future of Konoha and the ninja world. Are you willing to accept it? Minato's breathing became rapid. He looked Hiruzen directly in the eyes and nodded heavily. I do. Hokage office. Minato said in a deep voice. I will work hard to respond to third generation's purpose and trust, and I will not let you down. Third generation nodded with a smile on his face. I believe you can do it. Okay, let's go back. Yes, Lord Third Generation. Minato stood up after hearing this and left the Hokage office. On the way home, he couldn't help but feel excited and began to have beautiful reveries. After becoming the fourth Hokage, all his ideals and ambitions can be realized. After Minato returned home, Kushina walked out of the kitchen and asked curiously. The third generation project asked you to go, what's the matter? Immediately, she said with a smile. Did he criticize you? It's okay. Don't worry about it at all. Minato scratched his temples, pointed at himself, and said weakly. Well, he made me the fourth Hokage. Kushina nodded repeatedly, with an, I understand, expression. I see, this Hokage thing is no big deal. An airy summation, degree co-degree, wait. Something seems not right, Kushina asked emotionally, waving the cooking spatula in her hand. Chowdu Sak, what did you just say? Minato said with a slight smile. I have been appointed by the third generation head and daimyo to succeed the fourth Hokage. Is my husband going to become a Hokage? Kushina's face was filled with longing and she threw herself into Minato's arms. Great, congratulations. Kushina fluttered wildly in Minato's arms with excitement. Minato was shocked. Hey, okay, Kushina. If you do this again, I won't be polite to you anymore. Kushina tied up her red hair and showed a provocative smile. It's hard to tell which of us will be rude to whom. Ouch. In the small pavilion of Nara's house, Obito and Shikaha each held their own pieces and played the game with frowns on their faces. After a while, Obito sighed helplessly and put down the chess piece in his hand. Well, there must be something wrong with my brain to come here to play chess with you. Liu Yu smiled slightly and put away the chessboard. Obito-kun, please don't underestimate yourself. Your chess skills have improved by leaps and bounds, and you are no longer much worse than me. Obito rolled his eyes. You said this, do you believe it? The two people were sitting on the grass outside the pavilion, each holding a glass of carbonated drink. While enjoying the joy of carbonated drinks, we started chatting about everything. Shikaha put down the cup in his hand, looked at Obito beside him and said. The candidate for fourth Hokage has been decided, but it has not been announced yet. Obito said with a smile. Let me guess, it's Minato-sensei. I blanch. Shikaha almost knocked over the drink next to him. He said with a wry smile. As expected of you, Obito-kun, you are really insightful. I originally wanted to give him a pass. Yes, the new Hokage who is about to be appointed is none other than Minato-senpai. Obito smiled and downed the drink in his glass. There was a chill flowing out of his eyes. He had a premonition. The opportunity he had been waiting for was not far away. On the podium on the top floor of the Hokage building. Minato was wearing a Hokage robe and stood respectfully opposite the third generation. Third generation looked at the junior he had personally selected with joy. He took off the Hokage hat from his head and handed it to Minato solemnly. Minato took the hat with both hands and slowly put it on his head. Witnessed by all the top management of Konoha. Third generation said in a deep voice. The future of Konoha is up to you, fourth generation. Minato nodded firmly. I will devote my life to Konoha. Minato walked to the front of the stage. Under the spotlight, he took off his Hokage hat and exuded his charm. Under the Hokage building, the crowd of villagers burst into deafening cheers. Ah, Hokage-sama, the fourth generation project is so cool. Support the fourth generation project. Naruto also shouted excitedly from the crowd. Naruto, don't tell secrets. That one on the stage is my father. A child in the crowd said. Fart, that's my dad. Naruto, the child's father. He grabbed his child and fried the meat directly on his belt. Obito was having a hard time holding back his laughter. This kid is really filial to me. Kushina and Minato on the high platform looked at each other from a distance. The two of them looked beyond tens of thousands of people, and they only had each other in their eyes at this moment. There was a slight smile on Kushina's lips. She used to always like to say that she was the woman who would become the Hokage. Did not expect. This sentence actually came true. She really became a Hokage woman. Kurigakure. Mizukage office. The third Mizukage knocked on the door with a smile. It seems that he has forgotten that he is the real owner here. Sir, those Anbu you met before have been taken care of. Setsuna sat on the sofa and nodded with satisfaction. You did a great job, third Mizukage. Those who were controlled just moments ago. To her, it was like a ticking time bomb. If she leaves Kurigakure, the flower of desire wilts unexpectedly. These guys can explode at any moment. In this case, it is better to kill them all. Third Mizukage was a little happy to receive Setsuna's approval. Thank you for the compliment, sir. Then when do you think it is appropriate for me to commit suicide? Setsuna snorted softly and said. I have changed my mind. After you pass the throne to Yagura, find a reason to leave with me. Third Mizukage is a leader that grew up under the cultivation of first generation and second Mizukage. Not to mention his superior strength, his strategy is also pretty good. It would be a pity to abandon it like this. It's better to take him with you, he can help deal with many problems. Moreover, you can also exercise your eye power in disguise. Anyway, if you only control him, there is no risk at all. The smile on third Mizukage's face grew wider when he heard Setsuna and planned to keep him by his side. Great, I am willing to follow you, he said sincerely. Setsuna nodded perfunctorily and asked casually. May I have your name? Third Mizukage said with a smile. Togami Kurogen. Then I'll call you Haixian from now on. Setsuna closed his eyes and waved his hands. Okay, let's go take care of the remaining things. I don't have time to delay here. I understand, my lord. Blackstring nodded slightly and left Mizukage's office. After Haixian left, Setsuna sat alone on the sofa. His eyes were slightly closed, not knowing what he was thinking. The whole person exudes killing intent from the inside out, making people shudder. Kurigakure. In Mizukage's office, Uchiha opened his eyes in an instant, and there was a flash of blood in his eyes. She quickly calmed down her anger and seemed to have regained her composure. But in fact there is a fire in her heart. Not only did it not subside, but the fever became even more intense. Through these days of quiet investigation, Setsuna finally verified his guess. My childhood sweetheart. It was not an accidental attack, but someone did it deliberately. The several Mist Shinobi teams that were at the scene that day were obviously sent to other places. And the places where these teams were supposed to go could be said to be polar opposites. It is simply impossible to appear in the wrong place at the same time. This is definitely not a coincidence and can be explained clearly. There must be someone behind the scenes who planned this. Setsuna then thought of Zuma's death, which prompted him to join Madara's camp. So who is the person behind this? Do I need to say more? If it weren't for White Zetsu, or Madara's deliberate guidance, how could he happen to be trapped in a bamboo horse surrounded by mist ninjas? Uchiha Madara. Setsuna wished she could run back right now and cremate that Uchiha Madara. But she is still constrained by White Zetsu and Black Zetsu. Even anger cannot be shown. Uchiha Madara, she thought through gritted teeth. Let me let you be proud for a while. When I have enough strength, I will take everything away from you. I want you to experience what it feels like to lose everything. Konoha. In the Hokage's office. It's still the same desk. But the person sitting in front of the table is different from before. Obito looked at the man with a smile and said, Minato-sensei, no, it's time to call you fourth Hokage. I wonder what Mr. Hokage wants us three to come here for. Minato smiled fondly. I feel somewhat helpless towards my naughty disciple. The teacher called you here this time to ask for your opinions and see how you want to develop in the future. Lin asked with some doubts. What's the future development? Minato nodded, crossed his hands in front of his face, and said. Yes, since the teacher is now a Hokage, it is naturally impossible for him to lead the Minato class anymore. If you continue to perform tasks as a class, or if you want to be transferred to another place, or if you have other ideas, you can tell the teacher. Obito smacked his lips playfully. If he understood correctly, Minato-sensei is trying to open a back door for them. In the Hokage world, several people are considered adults, so it's not surprising that Minato would ask this question. The three of them lowered their heads and thought seriously. After thinking about it for a while, Lin raised her head first and said, Mr. Minato, I don't want to go out on missions anymore. I want to stay in the village and be a doctor. Minato nodded slightly, as if he had anticipated Lin's thoughts. This little girl Lin, I don't like fighting and killing, and I have always been committed to saving lives and healing the wounded. Becoming a doctor was indeed a choice that suited her. Teacher, I know. I will say hello to Konoha Hospital. You can go to the hospital for internship tomorrow. Lin nodded happily. Thank you Minato-sensei. After Lin, Kakashi was the second to speak. Minato-sensei, I would like to join your immediate subordinate Anbu. Minato beamed when he heard this. Okay, it just so happens that teacher Anbu still has a vacancy. Please come and register when you are free. No wonder Minato is happy. With Kakashi's brains and talent. Given time, I can definitely become his right-hand man. Minato looked at his last apprentice and asked with a hint of anticipation. What about Obito, what do you think? Although Obito usually has an out-of-touch personality, he is very reliable at critical moments. And his strength is no less than that of some elite jonin. So Minato naturally wants to take Obito under his wing. Obito said with a smile. Minato-sensei, I would like to join Anbu, who is directly under Grandpa third generation. Minato was slightly surprised when he heard this. Obito wants to join third generation's Anbu direct. Why doesn't he want to join my immediate Anbu? It's not just Minato. Lin and Kakashi are also puzzled by Obito's decision. Lin couldn't help but ask. Obito-kun, why did you? Obito didn't know how to explain to Lin. You can't say that you plan to cause trouble. Kakashi looked at Obito with questioning eyes. Don't you want to work with me? Obito was speechless and could only respond with a wry smile. A long time. It was Minato who waved his hand first and broke the silence. Since Obito made this decision, he must have his own reasons. Oh Obito, the teacher supports your idea. The teacher will go and talk to third generation later. If he approves, you can join his Anbu. Although he spoke of support, Minato could not hide the disappointment on his face. Obito could only pretend not to see it and still said with a smile. Thank you Minato-sensei. Minato smiled reluctantly and said. Okay, you three go back first. We all have to work hard in the future, and we can't neglect our practice, you know. The three of them responded in unison. Yes, Mr. Minato. After leaving Hokage's office, Kakashi asked with a frown. Why did you choose the third generation program? From every point of view, Minato-sensei is the better choice. Obito said vaguely. I have my own plan, you will understand later. Kakashi glanced at Obito. HMPH, that's best. I'll leave first. After saying hello to the two of them, he left in a hurry. Since the last time he took the blame for Obito and was forced to die, he would feel a little uncomfortable when he and Lin were together. Lin could tell that Obito was in a bad mood. She held his hand and asked with a smile. Obito-kun, do you agree that I will be a doctor in the future? Obito thought for a while and said. Of course it's good. The job is stable, from 9 to 5, the salary is high, and, hehehehe. And you can also see Lin-chan wearing a uniform in the future. When you're bored, the two can also play a mini-game of doctor and patient. Just lie down and don't move, I'll treat you. Hey, the more I think about it, the better it gets. Lin looked suspiciously at Obito, who suddenly started to smile evilly in the middle of his words. And what? That's what you said. Obito shook his head and said. No, I won't tell you. As the saying goes, a soft-spoken person, this is what Obito is like at this time. Okay, then I'll tell you. Obito came close to Lin's ear and whispered. Polo polo polo. After hearing this, Lin's face became even redder. Oh Obito-kun, what are you thinking about all day long? She seemed to have thought of something and asked angrily. Did Kakashi tell you this? Well, Obito looked thoughtful. After a while, he nodded firmly. Ah, yes, yes. That's what he told me. If you sell once, it's still a sale. Once you get used to selling, there will be no psychological burden. Good brother, don't worry about dropping this pot. Brother, I have helped you, weld it to death. Lin poked Obito's head with her little hand. He put his hands on his hips and said with a look of hatred. I told you clearly at that time not to be influenced by him. Why are you still? Obito said with a smile. Oh, Lin-chan, don't be angry. Lin rolled her eyes and turned her head to the side. I want, you. Obito hugged Lin and returned the favor in the same way. A few minutes passed. Obito let go of the almost mature Lin and said with a smile. Don't be angry, Lin-chan. Lin nodded dazedly, looking so cute and naive, which made Obito laugh secretly. Not a moment. Lin regained her composure and asked hesitantly. Obito-kun, those thoughts you just had. Did you really think that? Well, Obito didn't know what Lin meant by asking. But in line with seeking truth from facts, the essence of LSP, he followed his heart and nodded. Yes, that. Lin stood on tiptoes, leaned into Obito's ear, and spoke in a soft voice. Then in a few days, let's ba. Obito felt itchy after hearing this, wishing he could time travel directly to a few days later. That night, Obito was summoned by the Third Generation Project. Third Generation no longer wears movie robes, but wears regular clothes. He walked Obito through the streets. Just like when I took Obito to practice before. Third Generation asked with a smile as he walked away. Little Obito, Grandpa heard that you want to join my Anbu. Can Grandpa know the reason? Obito nodded and said without thinking. Because Mr. Minato is too strict, I feel that working here will be a lot easier for Grandpa. After hearing this, Third Generation burst out laughing. Little Obito, Anbu is not an easy place to be, no matter who you work for. Obito looked annoyed when he heard this. If I had known earlier I wouldn't have chosen Anbu. I just saw that Kakashi guy joining Anbu, and that's why. With a sad face, he looked at the Third Generation next to him. Grandpa Third Generation, can I still regret it now? Third Generation stroked his beard and said with a smile. No, little Obito. Grandpa will give you a few days to relax. Come report to Grandpa's Anbu next week. How could Third Generation let go of the leaks that jumped into their own fields? He just wanted to explore. For whatever reason, Obito didn't choose Minato, but chose him instead. Obito nodded gloomily. Okay, Grandpa Hokage. Third Generation smiled and rubbed Obito's head. Okay, Grandpa won't give you too complicated tasks at the beginning, don't worry. Obito patted his small chest and breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, that's good. Obito walked around with Third Generation for a few more times. The two of them went their separate ways. On the way home. A gleam flashed in Obito's eyes. Joining Anbu in Third Generation was a plan he had already thought of. He must take the initiative to put himself under the purview of the Third Generation. In this way, the Third Generation Project controls him at the same time. He can also watch Third Generation's every move. Obito did this not just to deal with Danzo. It is also for the Uchiha clan to make early plans. Although the Nine Tails Rebellion is probably unlikely to happen now, but... Obito smiled bitterly and shook his head. But in the minds of Third Generation purposes, the vigilance against the Uchiha clan may not stop there. Speaking of which, I have to mention the attitude of previous Hokages towards the Uchiha clan. Needless to say, First Hokage has always regarded Uchiha as her natal family. Second Hokage Senju Tobirama. Don't look at what people say every day, Uchiha is born evil. I burned my mouth after eating a kebab. They all thought it was Uchiha who used fire style in secret. But Tobirama's methods can be said to be very clever. He promoted many Uchiha who had the will of fire, or rather were brainwashed by the village. Check and balance the Uchiha clan through the means of merging and dividing. Although some Uchiha complain about this, most Uchiha still care about Konoha. But when it comes to third Hokage, a problem arises. Hiruzen is also playing the game of checks and balances. But they use other major clans to check and balance the Uchiha clan. You say keep going like this. Then can the Uchiha clan become hostile to the village without their hatred? Fortunately, Hiruzen has no ill intentions towards the Uchiha clan. He checks and balances the Uchiha clan. Simply because of historical factors and the considerations of the superiors. Not like Danzo. Sun God doesn't have any other ideas, he just wants to kill Uchiha. Well, Minato-sensei is quite kind to our clan. After I take the time to kill Danzo, I have to find a way to change the third generation's view of Uchiha. Moods flow. Obito sighed quietly. I'm obviously still a 182-month-old child, why do I have to shoulder such a heavy responsibility, hey? A week later, Obito arrived at Anbu Hall in Konoha. After walking through a long and dark corridor, he reached Anbu's equipment. An Anbu ninja picked up a box and pushed it in front of Obito. Your codename is Falcon, register yourself. Well, that's troublesome. Obito carried his equipment and came to the locker room to dress. Get dressed and put on your mask. Obito looked at himself in the mirror and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Although there is one less tiger-striped mask, there is one more Anbu mask. It's really interesting. Kurigakur. Several ninjas were whispering to each other and discussing. A fog ninja sighed. It's so sudden. The third generation is clearly at its peak, so why should we abdicate just like that? Another mist ninja joked. Maybe it's because I've been overworked over the years and can't bear the weight of being a mother, ha 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 ha. At first, the fog ninja was speechless. You, third generation Sama is not this kind of person. Ahem, but I heard that Mr. Third Generation seems to, he understands everything, brothers. Beside the two of them, a mist ninja, who was obviously the leader, interrupted them with words. Okay, stop criticizing Mizukage-sama. Third generation has put so much effort into the village, and we cannot tolerate your nonsense here. Furthermore, Yagura-sama's succession to the fourth generation is what everyone expects, so you two should stop talking so much. As soon as the two fog ninjas heard what the boss said, they immediately stopped the conversation with a smile. We understand, boss. Yes, the brothers are all convinced by Yagura-sama's appointment as Mizukage. Yes, we just feel a little sorry for Mr. Third Generation. The sudden abdication of the third Mizukage. It caused quite a stir in Kurigakur. However, Kurogen Togami was not young. In addition, Yagura itself is the default candidate for the fourth generation project. There is a normal transfer of power between the two. After everyone had a novel and heated discussion for a while, they didn't think there was anything wrong. As for Togami Kurogen's abdication, I plan to leave the village and take some time to relax. Then there is nothing more to say. He fought all his life and finally retired. Still can't enjoy it. In Mizukage's office, Haixian looked at the host moment and said with a smile. Sir, everything has been taken care of. We can leave at any time. Setsuna nodded slightly and stood up from his seat. Without further ado, let's do it today. I've been delayed here for too long. Haixian nodded in response. Yes. Setsuna looked at Yagura beside him. Then Kurigakur, I'll leave it to you. Yagura snorted and nodded noncommittally. Setsuna didn't care either. After all, the two of them share a common understanding, and there really is nothing to say. Gone. Setsuna disguised himself as Black String's guard and followed him carrying his luggage. The two left Mizukage's office together. Yagura looked down at the two leaving figures, his eyes becoming cold and deep. Uchiha Madara, sooner or later I will make you pay. Yagura sat at Mizukage's desk, eyes closed and lost in thought. The scene from that night reappeared in his mind. The friends who grew up together are trapped alone in the siege. When he arrived, he had been stabbed several times and had no chance of survival anymore. But the mist ninjas didn't leave. Instead, he playfully played with his body with the knife. It was like discovering some interesting toy. Under strong stimulation, Setsuna opened the Mangekyo Sharingan and obtained the terrifying pupil technique, Pangenzen. She controlled the mist ninjas, using Ling Kai on each other, and breathed out fiercely. After that, She felt extremely happy that her great revenge had been avenged. But who knows? A long time. He opened his eyes, a trace of determination flashed in his eyes. If you want to improve your strength quickly, you can't do it without taking some risks. I need to use the power of the tailed beasts. I want to become a Jinchuriki. Konoha Village. Anbu Hall. Obito tidied up his clothes. After putting on all the ninja gear, he planned to leave Anbu. But at this moment, an Anbu ninja stopped him. Hey, new guy, you still have one last thing to do. Obito said with some confusion. Everyone is wearing a mask, how do you know I'm new here? The Anbu ninja was speechless and pointed to his left arm. Only then did Obito suddenly realize. Except for myself. Anbu, who was hurrying around in the hall, had a tattoo on his arm. The male tattoo is on the left arm, and the female tattoo is on the right arm. ... Good guy, everyone is evil. Obito asked humbly. Good brother, where do you get this tattoo? There. After the other party pointed him to a location, he left in a hurry. Well, it seems like this is it. Following the other party's guidance, Obito came to a small house. 5 minutes later, Obito left the hut with a cold sweat on his face. What the hell? Getting a tattoo hurts, and he had to maintain a high level of tension throughout the entire process. I am afraid that if I am not careful, the tattoo room will become a supernatural scene. Looking at the tattoo on his left arm, Obito grinned. Then let's start as an ordinary member. Next year we will be promoted to Anbu squad leader, and the Anbu squad leader the year after that. Work for a few more years and become the captain of Anbu, and then become a Hokage 10 years later, shouldn't it be too much, right? Obito left Anbu Hall happily. Went to report to third generation. Sarutobi Hiruzen today. Moved out of the previous office, leaving the location to Minato. His current office is in his luxurious villa. When third generation saw Obito ready to go, he patted his shoulder with a smile and said, Yes, you are very energetic. Grandpa will count on you from now on. Obito chuckled and scratched his head, not taking Hiruzen's polite words to heart. I will try my best, Grandpa Hokage. Third generation keeps its word. Several weeks passed. He really never gave Obito any complicated tasks. Then, Obito felt at ease and continued to live in another place. This day, he summoned the system and said with some complaints. Brother system, how long has it been? Why don't you give me a question? What about the god-level selection system that was agreed upon? Is this it? The system sighed quietly. Host, your strength has almost reached the ceiling of this world. Aren't you satisfied? You really don't dare to get promoted anymore. Obito curled his lips and said. I'm 15 years old and haven't reached the 6 paths level yet. Is this really normal? The system said somewhat sadly. Host, this system has gone through a lot of hard work over the years. It's really not easy to save some money. How about you give me some grace and let's talk about it in a few years? Obito shook his head and said. No need to discuss. The system eventually gave in. Okay, then after you complete the current task, I will give you a new multiple choice question. Obito said with a smile. Okay, it's settled. 1 month later, Obito said to himself angrily. Sure enough, I was still too naive. All the debts that Xiaoxia owed before must be paid back twice as much. After completing a task, he returned home exhausted. Then I made a somewhat shocking discovery. An unexpected guest came to his home. Obito asked in surprise as he looked at the little man in the room. Auntie playing chicken, why are you here? Grandma said with a smile. You're finally back, Obito. Little Weasel has been waiting for you for a long time. Monk Obito was confused. 107 came here specifically to find me. For what? Grandma thoughtfully prepared 2 small teacups and a pot of hot water for the 2 of them. Then he got up and left. Let's talk. Grandma needs to go back to the house to rest. Itachi nodded politely. Goodbye Grandma, thank you for your hospitality. Wait for Grandma to enter the house. Obito asked curiously. 1 against 7, why are you here today? Itachi said calmly. I came here under the commission of my father. He wants you to become the eyes of the Uchiha clan in Anbu. Father also asked me to ask you a question. In your mind, which one is more important, the family or the village? Obito looked astonished. After pondering for a moment, he spoke solemnly. Of course, family is above all else. Please tell Master Fugaku for me, and I will pass on the information for him. Itachi said thoughtfully. I will convey what Obito-senpai said to my father verbatim. Next, I would like to ask Senior a question in my own name. Obito nodded and said, okay, just ask. Itachi looked at Obito with burning eyes. Why are the words that Senior just said so different from what I heard from Shisui ni? Ah, this. Obito smacked his lips. He forgot that Itachi and Odudu had a very good relationship. Obito pondered again. It's just that I was pretending just now, but now I'm really thinking. The conflict between Uchiha and the village is becoming more and more acute. There will always be people caught in the middle, but... Obito said meaningfully. But I personally think this is a problem that our generation can solve. There is no need to let the next generation worry about it. Itachi chewed on Obito's words. Until this moment. Only then did he understand why Shisui had such a high opinion of Obito. Well-informed, and resourceful in making decisions. Itachi stood up and bent slightly. I understand, I'm bothering Obito-senpai today. Obito also stood up and smiled. Don't bother me. If you don't understand anything in the future, you can always ask me. After sending Itachi away, Obito chuckled. Oh, will you become Uchiha's eyes? He shook his head and went back to the house to rest. After all, tomorrow is another tiring day. Obito is now in Anbu. Have access to a lot of the latest information. For example, some time ago, the mutual attacks between the great powers have come to an end for the time being. Except for sporadic local wars, the ninja world has calmed down. But Obito didn't take it lightly. He's still wary of Uchiha Madara. I'm afraid that the other party will cause another Nine Tails chaos. But it was not until the 49th year of Konoha. Konoha village is still calm and calm. Well, it seems that Madara has given up, or has never thought about attacking Konoha at all. Obito thought, Teacher Minato and Mrs. Kushina have no plans to have a second child. So, a Nine Tails Jinchuriki in normal condition, paired with a husband who is the fastest in the ninja world. Most people really don't dare to take her idea. Even I, a tough-headed kid, only dared to enter when I took advantage of the situation. As a result, as soon as the master's wife was tied up, the master came to the door. If Kamui hadn't been there, he would have been killed on the spot. Well, at least for a few years, there shouldn't be anything to worry about. Obito said to himself. In the past year, he has not wasted his time. Not to mention that he passed the Jonin assessment. He also got his wish and became an Anbu monitor. One step closer to his Hokage dream. Obito glanced at the time and suddenly shouted. Hey, system. Why have I been standing there for so long and today's task hasn't been completed yet? The system asked somewhat speechlessly. Can your trees talk? Obito. After he stood still for a while, a familiar sound sounded in his head. Successful selection. Obtain reward. Level 2 development level. Significantly reduces Kamui's burden on the host's body, and the host can use mid-range wood-style ninjutsu. Yeah, Obito cheered. I feel like a tree that I have been pretending to be for so long. Now finally, Obito felt like he had achieved perfection, and tears immediately filled his eyes. At the second level of development, Kamui's physical burden has been relieved again. He also unlocks some useful wood-style ninjutsu. Moreover, the chakra in the body has also increased a lot. Now he already has about 12 calories of chakra. Compared to Mrs. Kushina or Naruto, the 12 kala chakra may be unremarkable. But it's really not that little. Look at the entire ninja world. The number of people who have so many chakras can be counted on 2 hands. Obito shouted in his mind. Hey, system brother, I have completed this multiple choice question. It's time to assign me a new multiple choice question. System baby, system honey, system, give me a hard time. No matter how Obito calls, the system is silent. His face darkened, and there was anger burning in his heart. I finally trusted you once, but you made me lose so completely, Blanche. I'm so mad. I'm going to kill Danzo. He escaped directly into the Kamui space and rushed towards the Kingdom of Rain. He wants to kill someone to vent his anger. The land of Rain. Rain Shinobi Village. The current Rain Shinobi Village has been rebuilt. Under the leadership of Yahiko and others, there is already a prosperous situation. Obito arrived at Conan's office with ease. He didn't even knock on the door, just opened the door and walked in. Sister Conan, I'm going. I'm sorry. Obito quickly backed out and closed the door. At the same time, I thought silently in my heart, I didn't see anything. After a while, Conan's cold voice sounded, okay, come in. Obito walked into Conan's office again. He coughed twice awkwardly and asked, Ahem, Sister Conan, the people and things I asked you to prepare for me before, on your side. Conan nodded slightly. Everything is ready. Are you ready to take action? Obito sneered and nodded. Ah, that's right. I've almost finished my exploration over there. It's time. Conan's eyes also flashed with a cold light. Her hatred for Danzo is no less than that of Obito. That's good. Shimura Danzo should have died long ago. Come with me, little junior brother. Senior sister will take you to get your things. Conan led Obito out of the office. The people and items he needed were delivered to him. As soon as Obito Kamui opened, he signed for everything directly. After doing all this, the two returned to the office again. After discussing business for a while, they started chatting. Quote. Obito accidentally turned sideways. Suddenly, he found two people outside the window, staring at him faintly. Obito was so scared that he walked right through the chair. Conan asked with some confusion. What's wrong? She followed Obito's line of sight, but saw nothing. Obito wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and laughed dryly. No, it's okay. Conan nodded strangely, then asked with a smile. Junior brother, do you want to have dinner with senior sister tonight? Obito's cold sweat broke out again. Senior sister, you want to kill me? No, the doctor said I have a bad gastrointestinal condition and cannot eat on an empty stomach. Quote. I'll leave as soon as I have something else to do. Goodbye, senior sister. Conan looked at the empty office. Playing with the black hair on his temples, he muttered to himself in confusion. Junior brother, what happened today? It's so strange. Some readers think the pace is too slow, so the author speeds it up. I shaved off Danzo today. Then see if you can take in another ruthless person. Chapter 101. Obito sent Kamui back to Konoha. At this time, he still had lingering fears, and his heart was pounding. I'm going to go. If I didn't do it just now, I've become a meteorite now. But, Obito thought again of the scene where Conan was changing stockings in the office. He felt that his trip was well worth it. Sister's legs are not legs, they are wolfberry water in the thermos cup. Well, I started to miss Lin-chan again. The feel of those white silk stockings last time. Pop. Obito suddenly came to his senses and slapped himself with his backhand. Obito, what are you thinking about? Konoha is still waiting for you to build. The ninja world is still waiting for you to change. You are actually thinking. Well, why don't you go see Lin tonight? This is life. It will unknowingly smooth people's edges and corners. Turning all kinds of people into all kinds of people. After returning from Rain Shinobi Village, Obito has prepared everything. He will be on a full moon Saturday night. As the clock strikes midnight, go and take away Danzo's life. Well, when I say this, it smells like a thief. Obito was distracted in the Anbu lobby when he suddenly saw a familiar figure. Hey, Kakashi, Obito shouted. Kakashi stopped. He turned around, walked to Obito, and said with some dissatisfaction. Obito, how many times have I told you not to call me by my first name in Anbu? Obito scratched his head and said. What did you call me just now? Kakashi. Seeing that Kakashi was speechless, Obito continued to hit the target. Besides, you have silver hair. Don't mention Anbu from our village, even Anbu from the next village recognizes you. Kakashi. He punched Obito angrily. You guy, tell me, what do you want from me? Obito rolled his eyes. I can't see you if I have nothing to do. It's been a long time since I last saw you. I wanted to ask how you are doing lately. Kakashi glanced at the time and found that it was still early to leave the mission. He put his arms around Obito and walked towards the lounge. The two sat on the sofa, took off their masks and started chatting. Chatted for a while. Obito asked curiously, "How is the development of your lightning style move? Are the suggestions I gave you useful?" Obito had previously passed on Boruto and provided some information about Shiden to Kakashi. Purple lightning. The new lightning style ninjutsu developed by Kakashi does not require Sharingan and can be activated without any seals. But does this stuff inspire Kakashi? In other words, Obito doesn't know if it will work. After all, Borutoden. Haha. Kakashi's eyes flashed with excitement. It works. I feel like it won't be long before I can develop a perfect lightning style. Obito nodded and muttered in his mind. It seems that Boruto-den is not that useless. What have you been busy with recently? Obito asked. Why do I rarely see you even during my breaks recently? Kakashi raised his eyes and said helplessly. Because I have to help teacher Minato take care of the children. Turn out to be. Minato now has to spend time in Hokage's office every day. But little Naruto who just went to school. He also strongly demanded that someone must take him to and from school every day. Ever since this difficult task falls, Minato's most valued subordinate and apprentice, Kakashi, has fallen on his little shoulder. The key point is that Naruto is also very naughty and makes Kakashi very annoyed. Obito looked at the reluctant Kakashi and comforted him. It's okay, just treat it as a way to take care of your children in the future and gain experience in advance. Kakashi was very firm and said resolutely. No way, I won't have a child. No, I won't find a girlfriend. If a wise man does not fall in love, he will not be responsible for drowning. Obito saw that this was not possible. Good brothers have a tendency to be single again in this life. I have to think of a way to dispel his idea. Obito rolled his eyes and said meaningfully. Just learning theoretical knowledge without putting it into practice will not allow you to experience true happiness. The joy of real swordsmanship is 100 times greater than reading. Say it. He patted Kakashi on the shoulder and stood up to leave. Let's go. I should pick Lin up from get off work, uniform hehehehe. Kakashi looked at Obito's happy look and couldn't help but fell into deep thought. 100 times. Can it really be so happy? Saturday night. Obito changed into a black robe and put on a yellow mask. He looked at the full moon hanging high outside the house, exuding a murderous intent. Haha, the moon is full and the wind is clear on the night, and the sky is full of murder and arson. Shimura Danzo, your life will come to an end tonight. Next moment, Obito's figure suddenly disappeared from where he was. Tonight, it was the day he carefully selected and set, and it was also the opportunity he had been waiting for. He has been hanging out in Anbu for so long just to grow his eyes and ears. First, teacher Minato is out on business and is not in the village at this time. Secondly, Anbu has a secret operation tonight, and about half of the Anbu are not in Konoha. At last, based on Obito's observations during this time, Saturday nights are set aside by third generation to spend time with my wife and children. So tonight is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The risk of his identity being exposed can be minimized. Obito's figure quietly appeared at the root. Then like a ghost, he got into the house belonging to Danzo. It was very late at this point. But Danzo was still sitting at the table, working on the documents seriously. The village's military expenditure must be increased, otherwise in 10 years, Konoha, will be surpassed by Cloud Shinobi. Obito looked at Danzo in front of him with slightly complicated eyes. This man seemed to really be dedicated to Konoha. Unfortunately, what he did made the village worse. Well, Danzo is indeed a battle-tested old silver coin. As soon as Obito appeared in the house, he instinctively realized that something was wrong. When he turned around, then he saw a black robe and a detonating talisman flying towards him. Danzo was startled at first, and then regained his composure instantly. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised in disdain. Haha, it's just a detonating talisman. I'll blanch it. I saw an Uzumaki suddenly appear in front of the opponent. Densely packed detonating symbols. It fell like a violent storm and suddenly covered the entire house. Danzo's face turned green. Boom, 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 boom. The detonating symbols were detonated one after another. The roots suddenly burst into flames, and the sound of explosions was heard endlessly. Obito looked at this scene, chuckled and clapped his hands. I haven't set off firecrackers for a long time, but I had a blast today. Boom 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 boom. The movement at the route instantly alarmed everyone. After all, the loud crackling sound could be heard from miles away. One lamp after another lit up in the dark night. The defensive ninja in Konoha. At this moment, everyone's expressions changed and they looked in the direction of the roots. No, go and see what's going on. Emergency gathering. Go and sound the alarm. The combat squad assembles. The communications team quickly contacts the nearby teams and calls back all the manpower that can be summoned. At this time, the roots were even more chaotic. What's going on? Is it an enemy attack? That's Lord Danzo's house. Protect Lord Danzo quickly. A group of root ninjas rushed to Danzo's door. Wind-style great breakthrough. Water-style water wave. Quote. A root ninja tried his best. All kinds of ninjutsu came out at once. But in front of tens of thousands of detonating talismans, it can only be said to be a drop in the bucket and of no avail. Looking at the house still lit with fire in front of them, they were at a loss what to do. What can we do? No, I want to go in and save Lord Danzo. A Roots member rushed into the house and was blown to pieces. Another Root ninja muttered with dull eyes. My Roots, no, the sky of my Konoha is going to fall. The sky is going to destroy my Konoha. At the center of the explosion, a certain mysterious masked man whispered. Well, it should be almost done. Obito glared. Danzo, whose eyes were completely burnt, was brought to the Kamui space. Next moment, Danzo, who seemed to have lost all vitality, suddenly burst into flames. One hand was even more skillful, reaching towards Obito's eyes. But what Danzo didn't expect was, the other party seemed to have expected it and easily clamped his black hand. Haha, Obito smiled mockingly. It seems that Mr. Danzo does this thing of taking people's eyes a lot on weekdays. Danzo saw the amusement in the other person's eyes. His heart sank and he asked with some uncertainty. You have already seen that I am faking my death. Obito knocked Danzo away with a palm and shrugged his shoulders. After all, this Izanagi technique belongs exclusively to me, Uchiha. Otherwise, why would I set off firecrackers? Use the detonating talisman to blast you here for so long. On the one hand, it is to cover up the traces I may have left. On the other hand, it is to eliminate any passivity you may have. In fact, the detonating talisman outside is enough to grind Danzo to death. After all, Danzo doesn't have a few red submariner watches on his arms right now. Danzo's Hashirama cell right arm, Uchiha letter from the future. Now that Uchiha has not been exterminated, he has at most a few Hashirama cells and 2 or 3 Sharingan. Let's go with the highest standards for now and let Brother Tuanzi go away in glory. It's just out of respect for Xiao Guo, Shang, Shadow. In addition, since he is now a villain, there must be many more settings. Obito saw that Danzo was passively dead, and if he continued to explode for a while, everyone would be almost gone. Only then did Xiao Tuantuan be pulled into the Kamui space. I plan to chat with him for a few words before sending him on his way. Danzo's eyes flashed with malice. Just now, although he saved his life with Izanagi, he still suffered serious injuries. Look at how sure the other party is of winning now. He knew that he was probably going to be in bad luck today. Danzo didn't ask who the other person was. The other party won't tell him once he comes. Secondly, knowing that the other party is Uchiha is enough for him. Innately evil Uchiha, your family will be destroyed because of you. He cursed. Well, Obito pondered for a moment and said with emotion. I have to say, you are quite accurate in reading people. The prophet must get a knife tonight. Danzo, even though he had experienced strong winds and waves, he didn't follow Obito's train of thought at this time. Is there something wrong with this Uchiha's brain? Okay, it's almost time, so let's stop chatting. Obito said. Uchiha Madara, I'm sending you on your way. Uchiha Madara. Danzo was shocked. How is it possible that Uchiha Madara is still alive today? No, maybe it's just the descendant of the other party. But even if he just inherited Madara's will, the guy in front of him would definitely threaten Konoha. And even threaten the entire ninja world. A trace of determination flashed in Danzo's eyes, as if he had made some kind of decision. For the sake of the ninja world and Konoha, I will never let you live. Danzo opened his robe, and the blood all over his body spurted out. The moment it left the body, it turned into ink color, forming a strange mark in the air. I'm here. The 4 symbols sealing technique. Farewell. Obito, beep 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 beep, several times. Activate Kamui directly and leave the Kamui space. And Danzo at this time. After using the 4-image seal, his consciousness began to blur. Hiruzen, it's a pity that I couldn't become Hokage in the end. Danzo murmured. You clearly know my ambition, but you would rather pass the throne to a junior than leave the Hokage position to me. Do you know how frustrated I have been over the years, because I have been chasing you all my life, but I still can't catch up with you. Danzo was still talking about something. Maybe he was saying goodbye to his old friend. Maybe he is talking about his unfinished business and his grand blueprint that has not yet been realized. Or maybe he was just cursing, some unscrupulous idiot. It wasn't until the pure black ink completely submerged his entire body that his voice suddenly stopped. A generation of heroes fell. And the thing sealed this time didn't even have half a bridge. It really sealed the loneliness. After a while, Obito's figure appears in Kamui's space again. He patted his small chest fearfully. I'll go, it's so dangerous. The 4 symbols sealing technique is an S-level ninjutsu. That terrifying seal, it's enough to make all matter within 100 meters never see the light again. Originally I wanted to leave you with a whole body, but... Obito shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Well, let's throw those rain shinobi out next, and the scene will be almost ready. Obito had previously captured 5 or 6 rain shinobi from Rain Shinobi Village who were always causing trouble. Several of them are loyal supporters of Hanzo and have been trying to overthrow the rule of Akatsuki. This is also going to be clicked away. Obito simply captured them and made use of them. Playing with one hand, shifting flowers and trees with one hand, with a focus on Konoha. Gawe. Obito threw several rain shinobi outside. After watching them being cooked, Kamui left the scene. Time goes back 5 minutes. 3rd generation was awakened by a loud noise. He jumped up from the bed like a carp. In less than a minute, he put on a black combat uniform and rushed out of the door of his home. When he saw the source of the explosion, his face couldn't help but change. Roots. Danzo. He is like a monkey. Jumping up and down, running towards the roots quickly. 3rd generation said silently in his mind. Old friend, you must not let anything happen to you. At this moment, he was extremely anxious. When the 3rd generation reaches its roots. The explosions had stopped, leaving only thick smoke rising into the sky. A small part of the once luxurious roots has now turned into ruins. Under the scorching flames, everything was devastated and scorched black everywhere. When 3rd generation saw this, their heart sank. The most severe root collapse is where my old friend Danzo is. Danzo. Around the root, 20 or 30 Anbu had gathered at this time. Anbu, who is still in Konoha now, has all arrived. Obito, who had just changed his equipment, also blended in with the crowd. The real murderer is among us. Under the 3rd generation purpose arrangement, Anbu present was divided into 2 groups. A group was sent to patrol the area, looking for possible absconding attackers. The other group followed him into the roots to find out what was going on. Obito was fortunate enough to be assigned to the 2nd batch, and he was still a little excited. This is the act of returning to the scene of a crime openly and honestly as a law enforcer. It's really an adrenaline rush. A group of people advanced forward within the route. The Anbu team, who was responsible for exploring the path, turned back and reported to Hiruzen. Master 3rd generation, the danger has been resolved. Sarutobi Hiruzen heard this. He took the lead in speeding up the pace, jumping in and out quickly. Soon, he saw a group of root ninjas who looked like mourning concubines. And Danzo is barely visible, the remains of an office building. What is going on? 3rd generation's voice is deep and seems to contain endless anger. Obito secretly smacked his lips in the crowd. It seems that the relationship between 3rd generation and Danzo is quite deep. If he had known that he had killed Danzo, he might have dared to be pushed to the ground by himself on the spot. A root member said sadly. Someone deliberately launched this suicide attack against Lord Danzo. According to our estimates, the opponent used at least tens of thousands of detonating charms. Danzo-sama's life and death are now uncertain. His body was not found at the scene. Third generation couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. In other words, could the other party hold Danzo hostage? He waved. Standing behind him were several Anbu who were good at on-site investigation, and quickly got into the messy wreckage. Soon, an Anbu came out and reported in a low voice. Sir, third generation, based on some clues at the scene, we have made a rough inference. The person who did it was probably the ninjas of Rain Shinobi Village. The subordinate refers to the Rain Shinobi Village before Akatsuki. Although Rain Shinobi Village officially changed its name to Shaoyan Village. But in Konoha, everyone is still accustomed to calling it Rain Shinobi Village. That's why Anbu emphasized that it was the Rain Shinobi Village before Akatsuki. The third generation target's face became a little gloomier again. The people from Rain Shinobi Village quietly infiltrated Konoha without telling me. And they even took away the top management of Konoha from the roots of the gate. What do you do for food? Is this the strict security you always tell me? Check it for me. Third generation roared. Go find out how these Rain Shinobi infiltrated. Why are they related to Danzo? Go. Go and bring Danzo back to me. I want to see people when I am alive, and I want to see the body when I die. Go. I saw my boss was angry. A man named Anbu left the route silently. Scattered towards various parts of the village. Obito randomly picked a direction and ran for a while. There was no one around. Then he quietly moved towards somewhere. He climbed over a wall 2 people high with ease. It fell into the yard of a house. Seeing the main room with the lights still on, he knew that the other party was waiting for him. Obito walked into the house and knelt down on one knee. Chief Fugaku, I have something important to report. Uchiha Fugaku put down the book in his hand and helped Obito up with a smile. I've told you so many times that you don't have to be so polite in front of me. Get up quickly. He forcefully pulled Obito up and pushed him onto the seat next to him. Then he asked with a serious face. Tell me, what happened with that explosion just now? Obito said succinctly. It was the former Rain Shinobi Village ninja who launched a surprise attack on the roots. Shimura Danzo's life and death were uncertain, and the third generation was furious. Now all the Anbu in the village have been mobilized to search for the whereabouts of Danzo and those Rain Shinobi. But I personally think that Danzo and those Rain Shinobi should have died in the explosion. Fugaku's eyes were like lightning, and thoughts were swirling in his heart. Something happened to Shimura Danzo. For the Uchiha clan, this is a great blessing. Among the current high-rises in Konoha, only this hateful guy keeps targeting the Uchiha clan. Of course, maybe he has the inspiration for the third generation purpose behind him. But all in all, this guy is no longer targeted. The Uchiha clan can finally take a breather. Think of this. Fugaku looked at Obito aside and asked with the intention of taking the exam. Obito, do you think we, the Uchiha clan, need to take this opportunity to do something? Obito pondered for a moment and then slowly shook his head. Fugaku said with interest. Oh why? Obito said. Because time is on our side. Time. Fugaku unconsciously sat upright, waiting for Obito's next words. You have a good relationship with Minato-sensei. Minato-sensei has also shown enough kindness to our clan. It can be foreseen that Konoha's attitude towards me, Uchiha, is likely to change in the next 10 years. Not to mention that there are many young talents in our clan. It only takes a period of accumulation to flourish and achieve success. This. Fugaku gave Obito a strange look. Isn't this kid praising himself? Obito ignored Fugaku's look and thought to himself without blushing. That's right, Brother Tuzi is talking about himself. During my insignificant development period, I hope that everyone will be harmonious and that no one will cause trouble. Otherwise, I will visit your house every day with the help of the Susanoo Buddha. Moreover, today, there is no big rift between Konoha and Uchiha. Even if there is, that later became 6 paths for me. We can also sit down and discuss things calmly. You give me a face, he gives me a face. Let this matter be over. Obito felt jealous for a while and continued to speak. Although Minato-sensei has become the 4th generation now, the one who is really in power is the third generation who has been suppressing our clan. Now that Danzo, who was used to check and balance our clan, is gone, if our clan makes any slight changes, we will easily be suppressed by the third generation's purpose. So in my humble opinion, our clan might as well keep a low profile for a few years and wait for the third generation and the fourth generation to complete the transfer of power. After listening to Obito's words, Fugaku fell into deep thought. He originally just wanted to take the exam at Obito's school. Unexpectedly, the analysis given by this child almost convinced him. This is really. After thinking about it for a while, Fugaku nodded slowly. I understand, please go back quickly and don't make others suspicious. Obito nodded slightly, stood up and said goodbye. Then I'll leave first, Fugaku-sama. Fugaku looked at Obito's leaving figure and couldn't help but admire secretly in his heart. A leader among his peers and a visionary. This kid is a great talent. It's not just him. His younger brother Shisui is also concerned about the overall situation and is promising at a young age. More importantly, these two are naturally close to their lineage, and their relationship with Itachi is also very good. It seems, in the future, you can consider cultivating these two brothers more. Let's talk about Obito. After leaving Fugaku's house, he curled his lips speechlessly. I don't know if the Fugaku clan chief heard what I just said. These guys in high positions always have an ambiguous attitude. Obito shook his head and walked quickly towards the outside of the village. I randomly found a deserted place. Obito climbed up a big tree and leaned comfortably on the branch. Find someone. Who are you looking for? The criminal is myself. Didn't I know whether there was anyone left alive? Not only did I kill the hostages, I also killed the murderers. Even if you find the land of rain, you will only find loneliness at most. So without further ado, hang up. Within 10 years Danzo was dealt with. Obito was in a pretty good mood at this time. He hummed a little tune out of emotion. 10 years of life and death, 2 boundless years, pleasant sheep, beautiful sheep, lazy sheep, boiling sheep. After getting rid of Danzo, the crisis of the Uchiha clan has been temporarily resolved. Although third generation has been sparing no effort to suppress Uchiha. But he has never had the extreme idea of exterminating a clan. Coupled with the presence of Mr. Minato, Uchiha's life will gradually get better. And most Uchiha still want peace in their hearts. As long as life goes well, no one wants to start a war. Thinking of this, Obito whispered. Well, but I have to give it a try when I have time, those restless guys in the clan. Someone in the clan has been setting the pace recently, inciting negative emotions among the clan members. He wants to restore the glory of the Uchiha clan through force. Be reasonable. I don't know where those guys who don't drive Mangekyo get their confidence. I really doubt they are Shakespeare's nephews, Jane Temesabi. Obito complained. The dawn spread like water waves, lighting up the dim sky. Obito jumped down from the tree and stretched lazily. It's comfortable, Bashi. Obito gave a hunch and walked towards Konoha village. Next, it's time to find that person. After entering the village, he followed the familiar road and arrived at the door of a familiar drugstore. Immediately he walked into the store with a smile. Sister Yuji, long time no see. Yuji in front of the counter. He glanced sideways at Obito and said in a strange tone. Hey, you are such a rare visitor. The arrival of adults really makes the shop shine. Obito scratched his head in embarrassment. Isn't it quite busy recently? Hee. Yuji rolled her eyes and said angrily. You don't go to the Three Treasures Palace for anything. Tell me, what do you need to buy this time? Obito took out a letter from his arms and handed it to Yuji. I am not buying anything this time, but I am entrusted by someone to deliver a letter to you. Yuji took the letter suspiciously and glanced at Obito. You little brat, what else do you want to do? Yuji said in surprise after opening the letter. Is this a letter from Shao? Obito smiled bitterly and made a silent gesture towards Yuji. Sister Yuji, please keep your voice down. Yuki ignored Obito. Instead, he lowered his head and looked at the letter in his hand intently. Obito brought this letter to her. It was written by Yahiko, Konan and Nagato to Yuji. In the letter, the three of them first introduced each other's growth experiences. Then it tells the story of how the three of them went from hating the country of rain to falling in love with this country. From passive resistance to war. The experience of bravely taking the initiative to stand up and want to change everything. The establishment of the Shao organization and the purpose of creating Shao were mentioned. Read halfway. When she saw the three people being plotted by Hanzo, Yuji couldn't help but exclaimed. Ah, can be followed immediately. The three were helped by foreign aid. He almost killed Hanzo and successfully captured Rain Shinobi Village. Although the intermediate process is omitted. But Yuji could feel that it was extremely dangerous at that time. In the second half of the letter, the three of them listed Rain Shinobi Village in detail. In other words, Dawn, Hidden Village has changed over the past year. Under the leadership of the Akatsuki organization, the Akatsuki Hidden Village is getting better little by little. And under the leadership of Akatsuki Hidden Village, the lifeless rain country has also regained its vitality. But want to completely change a country. This little time is not enough, it will take at least several decades. So at the end of the letter, the three sincerely invite Yuji to return to the Kingdom of Rain and work with them to change the country. Because of Yuji, she is the most talented noble of this generation in the Kingdom of Rain and the most beloved princess among the people. If only I could get her support. It will definitely mobilize the enthusiasm of the whole country and greatly shorten the time required to reform the Kingdom of Rain. Even though it has all kinds of bad things, it is our hometown after all. As Yuji read it, tears fell down. For a long time, the Kingdom of Rain has only brought her pain. So she desperately wanted to escape from this tragic country. But she only knows now. There are still a group of people in the Kingdom of Rain, a group of people who have been abandoned by themselves. They are willing to give everything they have to make this country a better place. When she thought of this, Yuji felt like her heart was twisting in a knife. I abandoned them. I abandoned them. Obito patted Yuji's shoulder lightly and said. It's not too late now, you still have a chance to regret it. Yuji raised her cheeks and blurted out. I do. Obito nodded slightly and said seriously. In this case, Third Hokage will contact you within a week and mention this matter to you. At that time, you only need to tell him your decision, and he will help you. But when the time comes, I hope Yuji can hide the existence of me in this letter. Yuji bit her lip and nodded. Don't worry, I won't mention you. She asked softly, looking at Obito. It's you, right? Obito smiled. I don't understand what Sister Yuji is talking about, but you can just say it is. Anyway, I don't dare to have any objection. Yuji burst out laughing. She wiped the tears from her eyes and looked directly into Obito's eyes. Thank you, kid. It would be great if I could have a brother like you. Obito said with a shrug. Okay, all the love I've had over the years by calling you sister has been in vain. Obito, brother, hey, Sister Yuji, can you give me a hug? Roll, Konoha, in the third generation destination office. Third generation slammed his hand on the table, the anger between his brows visible to the naked eye. It's been 3 full days and you can't even find a single figure. Is this my Anbu from Konoha? The squad leader knelt in front of the third generation leader and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Third generation Sama, calm down. Although we haven't locked the other party's escape route yet, we have already found some clues about the other thing you told us. Third generation frowned slightly, took a puff from his cigarette and said. Tell me, how did Danzo get involved with the former Rain Shinobi village? Captain Anbu pondered for a moment. Inform the third generation project exactly what Danzo did in the land of rain. That's probably it, third generation Sama. What? Third generation slammed the table and stood up, with disbelief on its face. In order to prevent a truce with Iwagakure, he pretended to be Rock Shinobi and attacked and killed the civilians of the Land of Rain. Privately conspired with Hanzo of the Salamander to frame the current leader of Akatsuki Hidden Village. In the end, Hanzo of the Salamander died at the hands of Danzo. Third generation broke the bong in his hand with a click sound. His current state can be summed up in 3 words. That's the feeling of being out of breath. He never uttered a bad word in his life. Because of Danzo, the first foul language broke out. No wonder Rain Shinobi would rather die than attack him. This old friend of mine really has hidden so many surprises for me. Third generation scored twice and said viciously. Who the hell are you looking for to let this die outside? In order to promote peace. He has sacrificed so much and even voluntarily abdicated. This idiot was causing trouble outside and almost ruined all his hard work. Think of this. Third generation waved its hands distractedly. Please step back first. Wait. Captain Anbu has already stood up. He rolled his eyes secretly and knelt back. Third generation said. Now that Danzo's case has been found out, let's send out all our hands to find him. Bring him back to me. I want to ask him personally, what the hell is he thinking? Tiantian keeps saying that everything is for Konoha, but this is what he does. Is it for Konoha to end as soon as possible? Captain Anbu was numb, listening to third generation vent his anger. He thought to himself, Lord Third Generation, your relationship with Danzo is really good. He said he wanted the other person to die, but actually, tisk tisk. Okay, back off. Yes, Lord Third Generation. Third Generation watched the subordinates leaving and slammed the table angrily again. Danzo. Nowadays, the newly established, Akatsuki, hidden village. Konoha's desire for peace is completely consistent with his. He's still thinking about it recently. Whether it is possible to contact the other party and achieve a deep cooperative relationship. Great now, if what Danzo did comes to light, let alone cooperation, it would be good if the other party doesn't bear any grudge against Konoha. What's more, if it were a ninja village known for its peace, it would publicly condemn Konoha's actions in the ninja world. What a bad impact that would have on the current Fire Nation. Third Generation took out another cigarette and started to tremble somewhat melancholy. What can we do? What can we do? After puffing away for a while, the Third Generation project gradually calmed down. As my thoughts flowed, I also came up with some ideas. Perhaps, you can ask the princess, if she is willing to return to the Kingdom of Rain. I didn't see your tears and regret until the Highland Crystal was broken, hehehehe. Obito hummed a tune leisurely. He is out of tune with the busy Anbu colleagues, forming a sharp contrast. Promise me that you will never wander in the wild area again. Don't try to jump over the tower easily. Do you know that this will make me destroy the team? Others worked hard for 3 days. He was the only one who fished in troubled waters and wandered around the village for 3 days. Obito lay on the grass and muttered to himself. If nothing else, the things Danzo did in the Land of Rain should have been sent to the Third Generation table. What a coincidence. Third Generation still suspects that Danzo might have been abducted by Rain Shinobi. Maybe he is worried at the moment that these Rain Shinobi will spread some negative news in the Land of Rain that is not good for Konoha. The Third Generation project has been mentioned in front of Obito more than once. It is said that the current, Akatsuki, hidden village is peace-minded and is a potential ally that Konoha can win over. Thinking of this, Obito chuckled. If I were the target of Third Generation and wanted to restore the current situation, I would definitely talk to Yuji. After all, the Third Generation rescued Yuji back then just to prepare for emergencies and to seize a secret in advance. After thinking about it for a while, Obito feels that there should be no problems with his plan. With Third Generation's intelligence, I can see the way to break the situation. He can definitely see it easily. Well, there shouldn't be any problems, then I should go to the next place. Obito glared and escaped into Kamui space. He put on a black robe and an orange mask. Well, I have to act a bit more hockey for a while, or a bit more chubby. Otherwise, if you can't scare that guy, it won't be effective in beating him. Outside Konoha village, in a hidden laboratory. Various sophisticated high-end instruments are displayed here. If you pick one out and take it out, you can sell it for 100,000 taels. Now, a man wearing a white lab coat and long black hair. With a sullen face, he destroyed all his hard work one by one. He has a pair of golden eyes. The pupils are long and narrow and look extremely uncomfortable. Purple eye shadow was drawn to the wings of her nose, and her pale complexion looked like it had been dead for several days. Paired with the blue earrings, it gives people a sinister and cool feeling. Obito appeared quietly behind this person. Then he suddenly shouted with a wicked smile. Orochimaru. Orochimaru was so frightened that he threw away the instrument in his hand. Ignore the heartache. Orochimaru turned around slowly, a trace of uncertainty flashing in his eyes. When did this weirdly dressed guy stand behind him? I didn't even notice it. He licked the corners of his mouth and asked with some fear. Who are you? Obito said using Uchiha Madara's CV. The Uchiha Madara is the Uchiha Madara. Orochimaru hissed twice and said in a playful tone. Your Excellency is joking. Uchiha Madara has been dead for many years, how could he appear in front of me? Obito tilted his head when he heard this and glanced at Orochimaru coldly. Orochimaru was shocked. Just looking askance at people, but actually tilting your head. How unruly this is. Obito stretched his neck, which was slightly stiff due to sleeping outdoors. Then he looked at Orochimaru coldly and said, just like the living corpse reincarnation you studied, I naturally have my own way. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Orochimaru's heart almost jumped out of his chest. Living corpse reincarnation technique is a secret he never talks about. No one else knows except myself. Orochimaru stared at Obito and asked, licking the corner of his mouth. How did you know? Obito snorted and said in a disdainful tone. There is nothing in today's ninja world that I, Uchiha Madara, don't know about. Orochimaru's pupils contracted slightly, but they relaxed instantly. He said with a playful expression. Hiss, but the rumored Uchiha Madara is unparalleled and overbearing. He probably won't have the patience to explain so much to me. Obito secretly thought to himself, good guy. I'm used to you if you don't listen to me when I talk to you nicely. He glared directly, and the three tomo slowly circulated. The next moment, he took control of Orochimaru's body. Although my current strength is less than half of what I was in my heyday, it is not something that a junior like you can challenge. Obito said in a passionate and arrogant tone. What's more, I also got the power from Hossy Hot Mom. Obito clapped his hands and transformed into an angry child. Sharp branches pierced out and stabbed Orochimaru, who was unable to move. He was directly tied into a candied haws of apples. Orochimaru exclaimed, it hurts. Orochimaru broke into a cold sweat. The opponent actually knows wood style. Sharingan, wood style. Could it be that the other party is really the resurrected Uchiha Madara? Also got the wood style technique from first Hokage. Mastered Sharingan and wood style at the same time, two terrifying blood inheritance limits. Once the opponent regains his strength, who else in the ninja world will be his opponent? Unknowingly, Orochimaru already believed 70% of Obito's words. I wonder, Lord Uchiha Madara, why did you come to me? He asked tentatively. Obito snorted coldly and said, now I am busy recovering my strength. There are some things that I need others to do for me. I wonder if you are interested in this. Say it. Obito narrowed his eyes and clenched his fists. The branches on Orochimaru's body also tightened, squirming in his wounds. Orochimaru is willing to do your best for your lord. Orochimaru said quickly. Snort. Obito snorted and raised his hand, closing the branches inside Orochimaru. Young people don't know how high the sky is or how much they weigh without seeing any blood. Orochimaru endured the pain and said with a smile. Yes, I was too arrogant just now and offended Madara-sama. Obito put his hands behind his back and turned his back to Orochimaru and said. Now that something happened to Shimura Danzo, I'm afraid the dirty things between you two won't be hidden for long. After you leave Konoha village, work for me wholeheartedly, and I will grant you eternal life. Orochimaru was shocked. The image of Obito in his heart became more and more unfathomable. This man not only knew the living corpse reincarnation technique, but also his lifelong pursuit. He even knew what he and Danzo were doing secretly. Then help Danzo transplant Sharingan. That's when Orochimaru had this idea. The other party turned his head and said in an indifferent tone. There is no need to doubt that I also know the crimes you two committed against our Uchiha clan. If I hadn't taken a fancy to your talent, you would be a corpse now. I will crush your body inch by inch, and then completely seal your soul. Orochimaru broke out in cold sweat again. Master Madara, Danzo forced me to do all those things before. Obito raised his hand, interrupting Orochimaru's words. I'm not interested and don't want to hear it. I only give you one task. If you do it well, you will be rewarded, but if you don't do it well. Looking at Obito's murderous gaze, Orochimaru's heart trembled. Just tell me, Orochimaru will do his best to help you with your worries. Obito is very satisfied with Orochimaru's attitude. Very well, I need you to continue perfecting the reanimation jutsu so that I can use it in the future. Can you do it? Orochimaru was numb. He was already stunned. Do you have any other secrets that the other party doesn't know? Please give me a few years, and I will definitely satisfy you, sir. Orochimaru said with a low eyebrow. Obito nodded slightly. Then the conversation between us ends here. Don't try to contact me. I will go find you after you finish. If it's what I want, I will give you eternal life. Orochimaru's heart moved slightly. The other party has mentioned granting him eternal life twice in a row. And he sounded very determined. What kind of power does he have, and why? Orochimaru was distracted for a moment. When he came to his senses again, I was shocked to find that the other party had disappeared. Orochimaru laughed to himself. Haha, I wasn't talking to a ghost just now. Uchiha Madara, hey, never mind if the other person is Uchiha Madara. Its terrifying strength and wood-style technique alone make it worth serving for the other party. Maybe it's not such a bad thing. Orochimaru stuck out his tongue. Licking his neck, he fell into deep thought. How can I get some benefits from the other party? The other side. After Obito left the laboratory, he changed his clothes and transformed into Konoha Anbu again. Well, after hammering it like this, I wonder if it can speed up the process of Orochimaru and perfect the reanimation jutsu. Obito pinched his fingers, thoughts swirling in his heart. I should be able to scare this Lion Majesty today. When your strength improves in the future, you may consider taking him under your command. I remember my cheating system again. I'm so angry. System. Don't dare to say anything. A week flies by. Anbu still didn't understand. How did the Rain Shinobi gang sneak into the village? Third generation, after calming down, did not criticize its subordinates too harshly. Because he couldn't understand it either. Anyway. Now third generation is no longer focused on this matter. He has more important things to prepare for. That is to escort Yuji back to China. The day before yesterday, he talked with Yuji all night long and made their interests clear. The other party readily agreed to return to the Rain country and was willing to promote the two countries to form an alliance. Wait for the envoys sent by the Fire Nation daimyo to arrive in Konoha. Then he and Yuji will rush to the Kingdom of Rain. I'm afraid this trip will be very dangerous. Third generation frowned. Sending an envoy to the Kingdom of Rain may not be able to hide it from some thoughtful people. If the two countries of Wind and Earth bordering on Rain know about it, it is estimated that the mission will be intercepted at the border at all costs. Who should be sent to lead the team? Third generation pondered for a moment, then swallowed to inspire inspiration. With a whoosh, a name popped into my mind. Uchiha Obito. That kid's strength is extraordinary, and his relationship with Yuji is also good. It's him. The third generation project brought up the writing brush. I wrote 4 or 5 lines of my name in the document in one breath. 8 regular teams will guard you closely, and 2 Anbu teams will secretly accompany you. This specification should be enough. Konoha, Anbu. The merchant girl doesn't know the hatred of her country's subjugation, but she still sings the nunchucks across the river. Ho ha ha ha, use the nunchakus. Obito hummed a little tune. After happily changing my clothes, I was ready to leave Anbu. After working for 7 days in a row, he was about to have a 3-day holiday. Well, I haven't been with Lin for a long time. I finally have time to make out and make out. I don't know if she has worn the pair of fishnet stockings I gave Lin last time, and whether they feel as good as white stockings. Talk about it. Fishnet outfits are very popular in the Hokage world, and even many boys like them very much. Such as Shikamaru, Naruto, Itachi, Gaara, Jiraiya. Obito just walked out of Anbu's door. He was stopped by an Anbu. Uchiha Obito, third generation Sama has a mission for you, please come with me. The other party said. Everyone in Obito is stupid. What a loss. Third generation, this is Panda ordering takeout, and the bamboo shoots are here. Lousy finally took a vacation, and you still gave me tasks. There is no such thing as a holiday in Anbu. If the holiday is gone, it is gone. Obito forced a smile and said, okay, Please wait while I change my clothes. Obito put on the still warm Anbu clothes again. I arrived at the third generation destination office unhappy. The third generation looked seriously and threw a scroll to Obito. Obito, Grandpa has an important task for you. This is a serious matter, so you must be at your best. Obito took the scroll, opened it and started reading. I go. S-level mission. Assignments related to national-level confidential matters. He looked down and understood immediately. Oh, it turns out to be the mission of escorting Yuji back to China. I didn't expect that this task would fall on me in the end. Epsilon equals Omicron ****. Alas. Does this count as lifting a rock and hitting oneself in the foot? Obito put the scroll away and returned it to the third generation item again. I've finished reading, Lord Third Generation. Third Generation put away the scroll, took a puff of cigarette and said. I want you to take full responsibility for this mission. You will be responsible for the 2 Anbu teams. You must protect the safety of the mission and Yuji. Obito nodded heavily. Don't worry, Lord Third Generation. After talking about the business, Third Generation returned to his smiling look. Speaking of which, you have a pretty good relationship with that girl Yuji. You should have guessed her identity a long time ago. Obito said without thinking. It's just a guess, but it has never been confirmed. Third Generation nodded slightly and said. Okay, let's go back and get ready. We'll set off on time tomorrow. Yes, Lord Third Generation. Obito left the Hokage office. On the road, as he walked, he thought. Well, if the news of the mission to the Rain Country spreads like wildfire, then Earth and Wind will definitely send people to intercept the mission and try every means to prevent the alliance between Rain and Fire. It can be foreseen that there will be a fierce battle at the border of the Kingdom of Rain. Obito suddenly chuckled. Now that the 3 countries have signed a peace agreement, most likely those who attack the mission will be bandits with unknown origins. Back to Anbu, he hurriedly changed his clothes and ran towards Konoha Hospital. He is already an adult, no one can stop him today. Konoha Hospital. A handsome male doctor gathered around a woman. What are you talking about? Dr. Nohara, let's have dinner together tonight. The hospital will be conducting regular examinations soon. I have a friend who happens to be an examiner and can help you say hello. The woman is Nohara Lin. She smiled in annoyance. No need, Dr. Kishimoto. I believe that with my ability, I can pass the exam on my own. A trace of displeasure flashed in Kishimoto's eyes. He has already devoted too much energy to the woman in front of him. In order to get Nohara Lin's heart, he even dumped all his girlfriends. But no matter how he showed his kindness, the other party was indifferent to him. In the past, with his wealthy family background, outstanding appearance and superb skills, as long as he raises his finger, countless women will take the initiative to follow him. But this Nohara Lin is good, she is simply ignorant. Why did you use the excuse of, I have a boyfriend, to prevaricate him? What's wrong with having a boyfriend? I have a wife, what did I say? As long as we truly love each other, the 4 of us will have a wonderful life. Kishimoto had lost his patience. He said sadly. Sometimes, hard work may not lead to success. What do you think, Dr. Nohara? Lin's expression changed, and she became slightly angry. Are you threatening me, Dr. Kishimoto? Kishimoto chuckled. Don't get me wrong, Dr. Nohara, I'm just expressing my feelings. If you miss this opportunity to become a regular employee, you won't know when it will be next time. I just think it would be good for your development to know more people. What do you think, Dr. Nohara? Kishimoto smiled teasingly and slowly leaned towards Lin. In his opinion, this is a threat that is neither soft nor hard. It was enough to make the intern in front of me obey me obediently. Although using forced methods makes the whole process less fun. But what he covets is the other person's body, and he doesn't want to get the other person's heart. Besides, if you want to resist, you will welcome it, it also tastes very special. Lin couldn't bear it anymore. Just when she was about to push Kishimoto away, an arrogant and domineering voice sounded. Who the hell are you? Stay away from my girlfriend. Next moment, Kishimoto only felt a huge force coming from him. The whole person flew away in a whoosh. The people around were pointing at Kishimoto on the ground. People who know his character are even more upset. Haha, Look, look, the flowers and butterflies are getting their comeuppance. It's so exciting. But if I offend such a petty person, I'm afraid Nohara Lin will. Shish, keep your voice down, don't let that stupid thing hear you. Hey, I quite like this little girl Lin, but it's a pity. Lin said with surprise when she saw the person coming. Obito-kun, why are you here? Obito said with a smile. Hey, I'm here to pick you up from get off work. The other side, listening to other people's malicious remarks. Watching the girl I have been pursuing for a long time being held tightly in someone else's arms. Kishimoto is about to explode now. He stood up angrily and walked towards Obito angrily. Oh, Obito raised an eyebrow. Protecting Lin behind him, he looked at Kishimoto with interest. Kishimoto took 3 steps at a time and walked up to Obito. He poked Obito's chest with his hand and said viciously. How dare you offend me? Believe it or not, I can tell your girlfriend to get out with just one word. Obito, believe it or not, I can make you disappear from the world without speaking. Well, Obito originally planned to slap Kishimoto. Let him know that society is complex and people's hearts are sinister. But I thought about it in front of Lin and her colleagues. It's better to behave politely. So he lifted up his clothes and revealed his clan emblem. After Kishimoto saw the small fan, his momentum froze. You, the Uchiha clan. He gritted his teeth. ... So what about the Uchiha clan? The Konoha Police Department and Konoha Hospital are not the same system at all. Are afraid of what they will do. Kishimoto has only one idea in his head right now. That is, he was defeated in front of so many people on his own territory. If you don't regain your position, won't you be laughed at for the rest of your life? Then, Kishimoto pretended that he saw nothing. He gritted his teeth and said sternly and restrainedly. Ask your girlfriend to have a meal with me, and if you give me an apology, this matter will be over. Otherwise, Obito was happy when he heard it. Are you pretending to be X in front of my face, fruit user? Do you still dare to take advantage of Lin? Aren't you afraid that I'll dig into your heart in the middle of the night? ... Ahem, forget it. The opportunity is rare, so just pretend. Obito pulled on his clothes again, and a white mask fell to the ground. Ah, why did I accidentally drop this thing? Obito quickly picked up the mask from the ground and stuffed it into his arms. Many Anbu ninjas like to wear their masks when they are resting. In case of emergency, it can be used to identify yourself or enter the task status at any time. Obito moved quickly and put away his mask almost instantly. So people around didn't see it clearly. Then why does the young man still carry soap with him? It fell to the ground. It doesn't look like soap, it's such a big piece. Is it because it's not safe to wear, and it's uncomfortable to wear a full-screen mask? Why do I think it looks like a mask? Uncle, what's your look? It's not a mask at first glance. ... Although the people around didn't see it clearly. But Kishimoto was so close, so he could see clearly. His face is green now. If I read it correctly, that is Anbu's mask. Before he could react, Obito looked at Lin aside and said, Lin-chan, if things don't go your way here, just talk to Minato-sensei. Or I can go talk to Grandpa Hiruzen and ask him to say hello to your dean. That's half the story. Obito looked at Kishimoto aside, as if he suddenly remembered something. By the way, what you just said, told who to get out of here. Kishimoto did not respond to Obito. He couldn't turn his head around. Minato, Hiruzen, why do these two names sound so familiar? Wave, Namikaze Minato, ... Sarutobi Hiruzen. Lord 3rd Hokage and 4th Hokage. Kishimoto's mouth opened into an O shape. He looked at Nohara Rin with a puzzled expression. Girl, you have such an awesome background. ... Why are you hiding it? If I were you, I would hate to walk sideways every day. You killed me. Kishimoto looked at Obito's teasing eyes and felt panicked. What did I really want to do just now? Tell people to get out with just one sentence. In other words, I am afraid that I will finish playing today. That me. Kishimoto swallowed. Believe it or not, I just said. As long as your girlfriend says a word, I will get out immediately. Obito nodded pretending to be enlightened, and then looked at Lin behind him. Lin-chan, did you hear that? Everyone has said so, so just satisfy him. Lin punched Obito angrily and whispered, I hate it, Obito-kun. Immediately she looked at Kishimoto and gave a sweet shout. Go away, don't let me see you again, you are annoying me every day. I understand. Kishimoto bowed repeatedly. I, Kishi, am a decent man, so I ask you both to be merciful and tolerant. I promise I will never harass Dr. Nohara again. Obito waved his hand and said, Okay, go away, I'm not interested in talking to you. Kishimoto felt like he was being pardoned and left in dejection. The melon-eating crowd around me looked confused. Wasn't this guy just clamoring for the other party to get out? Why did the situation suddenly change and he got out? Ignoring the reactions of others, Obito took Lin's little hand and left the hospital. He's full of legs now. Bah, all he could think about was Lin's legs, so he had no time to care about what others thought. As for this Kishimoto, haha, just look for an opportunity and let him disappear from the world. Night. Obito delivered Lin, whose face was red, to her door. Kamui, who was still unfinished, traveled across space and came to the land of rain. Shaoyan Village. Village Chief's office. Yahiko asked with surprise as he looked at Obito, who suddenly arrived. Junior brother, why are you here? He put aside the document in his hand and hit Hatch and asked. It's so late, what happened? Obito nodded and said. I do have something to do. I plan to discuss it with my senior brothers and sisters. Our sister Konan and senior brother Nagato here. How about we talk while rubbing each other? After hearing what Obito said, Yahiko, who had been up all night for several days, suddenly became energetic. If you say rub it twice, then I won't be sleepy anymore. After a cup of tea, the four of them sat at a mahjong table and started playing mahjong happily. Obito said after playing a card, brother and sister, Yuji has agreed to return to the country and will set off with the Fire Country's mission tomorrow. Konan cheered. Great, touch, Yahiko asked thoughtfully. Junior brother, did you come here to tell us about this? Obito shook his head and said. Not entirely. I am responsible for this escort mission. I'm worried that the two countries, Tu and Feng, will attack the mission at the border. So I hope that senior brother Nagato will come to the border to meet us when the time comes. Nagato asked curiously. Junior brother, with your strength, what do you have to worry about? Unless a frontal army is dispatched from the opposite side, I'm afraid I won't be able to do anything to you. Obito said with a wry smile. In front of so many people, I can't use many tricks. It's very frustrating. Ever since he turned on Kamui, you always have to be careful when fighting. For fear of accidentally making a mistake, I would instinctively hollow. Yahiko laughed loudly and instantly felt Obito's pain. He looked at Nagato aside and glanced at the opponent's cards. Nagato, then you should go. First of all, it can make Yuji feel that we, Shao, value her very much. Secondly, we can show off our skills in front of the Fire Nation and let them know that we are allies, not their vassals. Nagato remained calm and blocked Yahiko's sight. Then he said with a smile. Okay, actually, if the junior brother is not afraid of being exposed, wouldn't it be more convenient to use Kamui to lead people directly? Obito shrugged. Having said that, but before becoming invincible in the world, he still planned to remain content. After all, his invincible ability makes people jealous easily. After 4 people played around, Nagato used a universal pull to shuffle the cards, and Obito watched in amazement. Senior brother's control over the pupil technique now is really meticulous. Universal pull. The caster can control the attraction and gravity intensity of the target. Nagato said proudly. Nothing but familiarity. Shaoyan Village. In front of the mahjong table in the village chief's office. After losing several hands of cards in a row, Obito felt something was wrong. He looked at Nagato beside him with a suspicious expression. Brother Nagato, are you okay with shuffling your cards? Nagato said with a smile. Junior brother, what are you talking about? We are all from the same sect, can senior brother still fool you? Hey, Obito closed his eyes and searched for feelings. When he opened his eyes again, he seemed to be transformed into Uchiha Wachiang. Brother Nagato, let me ask you, are you okay with shuffling the cards? Nagato doesn't know why. Under the gaze of his junior brother, he suddenly felt guilty. Ahem, that's natural. After the four of them rubbed each other a few more times. With strong suggestions from Yahiko, Konan and Obito. 4 people switched to manual shuffling. The next day. Obito said with 2 dark circles under his eyes and a slap. Brother and senior sister, I'm going back to Konoha. See you later. Konan won the night. I was in a very good mood at this time and said with a smile. Goodbye, little junior brother. Yahiko has fallen asleep on the table. After Nagato covered him with a piece of clothing, he looked at Obito and said. Junior brother, we will meet at the border then. Obito nodded slightly. Overline, great. He stared and returned to Konoha tiredly. I'm so sleepy. Obito arrived in Anbu continuously. After changing clothes, we rushed to the meeting place. Well, when he arrived at the entrance of the village, I was shocked to find that the convoy had disappeared. The Anbu team member under Obito said helplessly. Squad leader, you are late again. The mission has already set off. Obito smacked his lips. Then let's follow him quickly. 8 Anbu jumped out of the village. He quickly caught up with the carriage driving ahead. One Anbu asked curiously, Monitor, why do you keep driving your Sharingan today? This person's name is Yamanaka Jingtian, codenamed Faipeng. He is a member of Obito's class and they have a pretty good relationship. Obito coughed twice and said, when you go out on a mission, you should naturally be more cautious and be extremely vigilant. Jingtian heard this and gave a thumbs up. As expected of our squad leader. Obito smiled guiltily. He couldn't say that he had been rubbing himself all night last night. My eyes are all bloodshot today, it looks unsightly. The journey was uneventful, Jingtian said with a smile. It seems that this mission is quite easy. Obito shook his head and said. We are still in the country of fire. Even if the 2 countries of wind and earth want to attack us, they will not risk starting another war here. But when we get to the border of the Kingdom of Rain, it's hard to say. Everyone should be more careful. All the Anbu were shocked when they heard this. Jingtian nodded repeatedly. I understand, Mr. Monitor. A few more days later. Everyone could already vaguely see the border of the fire country ahead. Obito tilted his head and looked at Jingtian aside. Faipeng. Yamanaka understood and formed a seal with his hands. Through the gap between his fingers, he looked at a bird on the tree not far away. Heart turn technique. The bird spread its wings, hovered into the sky, and looked into the distance. Soon, the birds turned back. Jingtian's spirit also returned to his body. His eyes were solemn and he spoke with some difficulty. Squad leader, there is really an ambush ahead, and the other party's manpower is much more than ours. All Anbu were shocked. Unconsciously, he clenched the weapon in his hand. It looks like there will be a fierce battle soon. Obito asked thoughtfully. Well, just a little more, that is, not too much more. Why? Jingtian was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Obito looked relaxed. There aren't many people there. Brother Nagato used his strength and easily solved it. Jingtian asked nervously. Squad leader, what should we do now? It's not just him. The Anbu all looked at Obito, the team leader this time. Obito thought for a while and said. Well, first don't be nervous, then perform normally, and finally just stay steady and don't go wild. All Anbu. Listening to your words is like listening to your words. Seeing everyone's speechless eyes, Obito laughed loudly. No rush, let them be proud for a while. 3 Anbu under Obito. But he managed to hold back his temper and obeyed Obito's command. The other Anbu team didn't think so. The squad leader even complained crazily in his heart. What do 3rd generation adults think? Putting command in the hands of a brainless brat. I will definitely impeach this guy when I go back. Isn't this a blind directive? He gave the 3 team members a vague look. After a while, it was up to our brothers to turn the tide. This is our opportunity to make a difference, everyone should seize it. The moment the mission crossed the border, countless ninjas who were ready to attack rushed out. They are obviously a team of 4, ninjas who work well together. After changing his clothes, he insisted on shouting, lousy as a bandit. The 8 teams next to the mission responded quickly. No, protect the envoy quickly. The Anbu team beside Obito had already rushed out excitedly. Jingtian looked at Obito who was standing aside and asked. Monitor, why don't we go up? Obito smiled and waved his hand, but did not answer. The three of them had no choice but to stay where they were, staying motionless with the squad leader. 10 seconds later, a magnetic and charming male voice. It was like using a loudspeaker, echoing in everyone's ears. Universal pull. Okay, add some water. Universal pull. Okay, add some water. After a simple and unpretentious operation. Before Konoha could come into close combat with the opponent. The ambush, bandits, flew to no one knows where. There was a lot of discussion in Konoha. Who is this person? Is he an enemy or a friend? I don't know either. Be careful and don't let your guard down. The person who came was none other than Nagato. He slowly walked towards Konoha, shouting all the way. Comrades in Konoha, don't panic. I am the village party secretary of Akatsuki Hidden Village. Konoha was even more confused after hearing Nagato's words. Is it the newly established Shao Hidden Village? But, why is the village party secretary? I don't know either, but be careful and don't let your guard down. Quote. These words sound so familiar. Quote. Jingtian was also beside Obito and asked curiously. Squad leader, who do you think the village party secretary is? Obito rolled his eyes at Jingtian. The village party secretary is a position that assists the village chief in managing the village and carrying out various tasks. Jingtian suddenly understood. Is it similar to the Hokage assistant in our village? Obito nodded. Ah, yes. Jingtian looked at Obito with admiration. Monitor Gigi, you are so awesome, how come you know everything? Obito raised his face proudly. That's natural. Because this title was given by him. He also made up an oath for Shaoyan Village to volunteer to join the Shao organization. Speaking of which, wouldn't the squad leader have expected that Akatsuki Hidden Village would send someone to respond? Jingtian praised. You were really good at predicting things. Obito waved his hand, and Kakuzu's mouth almost lifted to the sky. Ahem, keep a low profile. Behind Nagato, he also followed several messengers from Shaoyan Village. Konoha's side couldn't tell whether the other party was an enemy or a friend. He seemed a little hesitant for a moment. Upon seeing this, Obito fell down from the tree and walked in front of the Konoha team. A squad leader came close to Obito and whispered. Sir Falcon, the man in front claims to be from Shaoyan Village. Do you think? Obito said with a smile. Don't be impatient, let me verify their identities. The squad leader reminded. Then please be careful. Do not worry. Obito walked towards Nagato, and Nagato also walked towards him. Obito coughed twice and asked pretendingly. Are you really the messenger from Shaoyan Village? Nagato suppressed his smile and nodded repeatedly. Well, yes. Obito turned around when he heard this and walked back to Konoha's team. Then Wei Chong said with certainty. Don't worry, everyone, the other party is indeed Shaoyan Village, sent to pick us up. Someone here in Konoha said in surprise. It turns out they are really friendly forces. On the next journey, the two parties gathered together and rushed to the hidden village of Shao. The journey was uneventful. After arriving at Shaoyan Village, Yahiko came forward in person with a group of backbones, welcoming the envoys from the Kingdom of Fire and their princess from the Kingdom of Rain. Obito stood in the dark and sighed. Hey, I'm afraid the days to come will be very boring. The envoy from the country of fire will stay in the country of rain for a month-long inspection. And during this time, Obito and the others need to follow them throughout the journey to ensure the safety of the envoys. Yahiko and the others definitely have no time to talk to him. Sister Yuji is probably the same. But that's okay. Obito looked at his teammates beside him. There are exactly 4 people in my team, so we can still play mahjong. Or call another team and let's play, please close your eyes after dark, together. Fire Nation, Konoha. During Obito's absence, something big happened in Konoha too. In the 3rd generation destination office, an Anbu knelt in front of the 3rd generation target and said in a deep voice. Sir 3rd generation, a thorough investigation of the routes has been completed, except for what I reported to you last time. This Anbu hesitated for a moment, took a deep breath and said. Quote. We were still waiting at the route, and found a child who has mastered wood style. Wood style. 3rd generation was surprised and happy when they heard this. He broke the pipe in his hand with a click. No wonder third generation is so excited. The significance of wood-style ninja to Konoha is indeed extraordinary. First, the first Hokage who founded Konoha was best at this wood-style technique. Secondly, wood-style sealing technique is very effective and crucial for sealing Jinchuriki. At last, wood-style, a blood inheritance limit, has powerful power in itself. With a little training, you can cultivate a strong person. Or a real estate developer. After a while, after third generation calmed down. Suddenly realizing a problem, he frowned deeply. He looked at Anbu in front of him and asked, "Where does this wood-style ninja come from?" Anbu ninja said hesitantly, "According to the information we have learned, it seems to be through some kind of human experiment." Before he could finish his words, third generation slammed the table hard, causing it to break in half. Danzo, gnashing teeth. Back then, third generation and Danzo were working on developing wood-style's bloodline. Many volunteers were found in the village and volunteered to conduct a series of human experiments. There are also many volunteers who are of the Senju clan's blood. Available during the experiment, almost all the volunteers died or were injured due to rejection of cell transplantation. So third generation made a decisive decision and stopped the entire project. But this fool went behind my back, in private. The third generation's face was gloomy, almost dripping with water. Without his own support, Danzo still completed the experiment. What does this mean? Someone must be secretly helping Danzo conduct the experiment. And looking at the entire Konoha, there is only one person who can do this. My filial and good disciple, Orochimaru. Third generation suppressed the anger in his heart and growled, "Go bring me Orochimaru." Yes, half an hour later. The Anbu from before returns again. He knelt in front of the third generation target and said solemnly, "Third generation Sama, we have searched every corner of the village, but there is still no trace of Orochimaru." Third generation took a puff from the pipe and said in a faint tone, "You mean my apprentice, defected?" The Anbu ninja said bravely, "Yes, Orochimaru must have defected." Third generation remained silent and smoked the pipe silently. The smoke he exhaled covered his face, making it difficult to see his expression clearly. A long time, third generation spoke calmly. The knowledge, intelligence, and technology possessed by Orochimaru are all precious treasures of Konoha. If this information falls into other countries, Konoha will suffer huge losses. If Orochimaru is classified as an S-class rebel nin, he must not be allowed to escape the land of fire. The Anbu ninja nodded repeatedly, and then asked hesitantly, "Third generation Sama, that wood-style ninja, should we take him under our command?" Third generation shook his head and said, "There happens to be a vacancy under fourth generation. Let him join Anbu, who is directly under fourth generation." "Yes, I understand." The Anbu ninja stood up quickly and strode out of the office. Third generation is alone, sitting in his office at the University of Nottingham. Looking at the empty room, he sighed quietly. Danzo. Orochimaru. Third generation smiled to itself. He threw the pipe in his hand heavily to the ground. The next day, third generation collected their emotions and continued to get up early to deal with official duties. His squad leader was the Anbu from yesterday. Now she is kneeling in front of him, reporting on the progress of yesterday's mission. The fourth generation also provides strong support, and I believe that my subordinates will be able to intercept Orochimaru before he escapes from the land of fire. Third generation rubbed his eyebrows and said a little tiredly, "You did a good job, please step back." The squad leader pondered for a moment and then spoke. "Third generation Sama, I have one more thing to report to you. Uchiha Shisui has applied to join Anbu. The fourth generation project is a little undecided and wants to ask for your opinion." Third generation's eyes showed a look of reminiscence. Shisui, he is just like the original mirror. He is a good boy who has inherited the will of fire. Third generation chuckled lightly, waved his hand and said, "Let the fourth generation make up its own mind. He is the current Hokage of Konoha." Yes, the squad leader slowly stood up. Before leaving the office, I quietly took another look at third generation. The once high-spirited shinobu. Now he has a head full of white hair, and his waist has been bent by the ruthless years. At this time, he looked more like a lonely old man. Alone, he endured the pain caused by the betrayal of old friends and apprentices. For the growth of the next generation, he wants to slowly downplay himself and let everyone forget his existence. Third generation Sama. The squad leader laughed with a complicated expression. Perhaps, he was witnessing the end of an era with his own eyes. But he also has the opportunity to witness the rise of another era. He shook his head, no longer sad, and walked quickly towards Anbu. All for Konoha. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.